Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, August 29th. We are here. We are at the end of the week. And more importantly, we are at the end of the month. This is the second month of Q3 that is now ending out. And it's the last trading day of August, which is, first of all, I can't even believe it's Friday. Like this week literally feels like it happened in an instant. But I also can't believe we are a couple days away from September. But we're here. And then from September, we got 4 months left. And then we are done with 2025. It has been a very volatile year. It's been a volatile week. But we're here. And we're going to see how the end of the year plays out. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got a lot to talk about today. We had a bunch of earnings from yesterday and a bunch of earnings this morning that we'll discuss, a variety of different pieces of news that dropped from those earnings. The main piece of news, which let's just get into it before we get into some of this other stuff, because this is the most important. PCE is out, which I kind of forgot was coming out this morning. And then I remembered as I woke up, wait a second, we do have PCE. There you go. 2.6 versus 2.6 on the monthly for July. Not too bad. For core, 2.9 versus 2.9. Thank goodness this was not a surprise. This was in line. 2.9 was a little bit higher than last month at June at 2.8, which is okay. The market can deal with that. But if this number was like 3.2 or, PCE on July was like 2.9 versus 2.6, it would have been a little ugly. It definitely would have been a little ugly because we are kind of guaranteed the rate cut now by Powell if you had some type of mix-up happening because of PCE, which is, again, the preferred metric that the Fed looks at. This wouldn't be that good. So the fact that we came in line with expectations is nice to see. It's good in the context of the Fed probably not having some dramatic surprise that's going to lead them to not cut rates, because they've all but guaranteed that they're probably going to cut rates back in September. And so we got about 18 days left until the first rate cut. Market's priced for it, but actually getting that rate cut would be so important. And it doesn't look like PCE is going to stand in the way to make that happen. Yes, today is options expiration day as well. It's not as big of an OPEX day as it was, I think, 2 weeks ago. We had about $3 trillion of options expiring back in mid-August. So we do have a lot of, options expiring today, which could lead to some wonky price action. But it's not as dramatic as it was a couple of weeks ago. But see, the PCE was the most important thing. And the fact that that came in line with expectations is very good. Probabilities for a rate cut are now 87%. This was 85% yesterday. So up a little bit, which is good. But it's very nice to see that we are not having some dramatic surprise. Yes, we are still away from the Fed's target at 2%. I think the Fed themselves, though, have come to the conclusion we're not whether we have a Democrat or a Republican in the White House, it's not going to be easy for any of them, given the nature of structural spending that the United States is contingent on, to get the 2% inflation. Like, that's just going to be very difficult. Yeah, and to get the 2%, I mean, we could get there, but you're going to need a lot of demand to go down, which means the economy would have to not collapse, but the economy would definitely have to take a breather, which would obviously not be good for the stock market or for earnings growth. So, I mean, as long as we don't get massively above their target, if we stay in line, I think that's the best thing. And it looks like we will be getting that rate cut. So that's what we got. PCE came in line with expectations. Not too bad. Very happy that was not a major surprise that we had this morning. And it looks like the market will be able to kind of go from there and see what we've got going on. Now, in terms of price action in the pre-markets, we were red before PCE. We're still kind of red. Iran is not red. That is up 21%. Congratulations to those that are in Iran. Absolutely smashed earnings. They added more GPUs. They signed a collaboration agreement with Nvidia. Their cloud computing business is getting stronger. I mean, this company was a Bitcoin miner that would probably be in the same dumps as another one called CleanSpark, which is struggling to get over $10, even though they were at the same price when Bitcoin was $20,000. Bitcoin is now 5x since then. But they pivoted the business. Same thing with Cypher. And it's just very incredible to kind of see them tap into this AI data center ecosystem and really use their infrastructure to make change of it. And as a result, they're up 20%. Marvell, not the best earnings, not the best guidance. That's down 14%. Nvidia, down 1%. We do have some breaking news on Nvidia in the context of Alibaba, so we'll talk more about that in a bit. Alibaba did have earnings, by the way. Crushed it, up 7%. Not bad earnings. AI growth continues to be strong. Cloud growth continues to be strong. R&D budget continues to grow as they're investing more in none other than chips, which is kind of why Nvidia is down, and we'll talk about that. But Alibaba not doing too bad. Palantir's down a little bit. S&P 500 did hit an all-time high yesterday. Now it's at 0.21. If we end exactly where we are right now in the S&P 500, which is about 648, we will be up 4.5% for the month in August. The last time we had an August that was that good was back in 2020. So it's been a long time since we've had this strong of a month for August. But we're going to see how this one ends up playing out. Affirm, great earnings. That's up 17%. Webull, decent earnings. That's up 1.2%. Market's not reacting too much to it. FICO had a good day. That was up 8% yesterday. SoFi was up about 4% yesterday. Snowflake up 20%, down about 1.3%. Rocket Lab, we had that event in Virginia around Neutron, which our boy Matt Money was at, which was awesome. That one is up 4%. Oracle up 1.9 yesterday, down a little bit on the day. So as you can see in the pre-markets, nothing too crazy outside of that. Some of the high flyers that had earnings yesterday, like an Affirm or an IREN, but everything else pretty much just taking it flat. And we'll see. This is a long weekend, so you do tend to get some selling pressure historically into a long weekend because people just don't want to hold stocks into a 3-day weekend. But we're going to see how this one ends up playing out. Meta right here as well is down about 0.68%, and IREN is up 20%. Opendoor is up 5%. Opendoor had some breaking news yesterday. Opendoor, one of the presidents, who is the interim CEO, bought shares, 30,000 shares, and he committed for the entire executive team to stop selling. Hopefully the Fed doesn't stop cutting. But so they pledged that their 10b5-1 plans will not be cut, why do I keep saying cutting? will not be sold or executed on, which is good. I think that's bullish Opendoor. Even though I'm not part of the story, I think that is super bullish. If the entire executive team is saying, hey, we are not going to sell our shares in the scheduled sales that we've had, these guys have been selling shares from 50 cents to $1 for the past year and a half aggressively. Like the CEO was selling hundreds of thousands of shares at 50 cents. If they're saying, hey, we're going to stop selling and he's personally buying more stock, I mean, maybe there's a turnaround here. Maybe there's something exciting. So we're going to have to see how that ends up playing out. But that was some good piece of news that we had yesterday on Opendoor as well. Amit is super stressed about rate cuts. I just hope we don't get a rug pull in September, dude, because September theoretically tends to not be the best. So hopefully we can at least get the rate cut to keep September going. All right, before we get into all the other stories that we have for today, first of all, happy Friday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's do this since we haven't done it in a couple of weeks. Where are you watching from? Where are you watching from? Let's see where everyone is on this Friday morning. And then we will get into all the pieces of news that we've got going on. We got some macro data that we have to look at as well, along with PCE. Again, for those that are just joining, PCE crushed it and came in line with expectations. We also have some quotes from Fed President Waller yesterday. He is definitely auditioning to be the Fed president. Let's just say that based on the T word that he used, aka transitory. So we'll talk about that. And as a result, I think if we just have a regular day, nothing too crazy up or down, then maybe we end out the month up 4.5% on the S&P, which would be incredible for the month of August. And hopefully September is not as bad and it can kind of continue some of that momentum. So that's what we got on PCE. We got Jamil from Orlando. We got Som Sound from Charlotte, North Carolina. We got Manish from Singapore. I love it. Hopefully I will be in Singapore in 2026. Most likely July. It looks like that is going to happen. Benny. We got Benny from London. Hopefully we get to London pretty soon as well. We got YC Investing from South Korea. Hammond from San Antonio. We got Jersey in the house. We got Australia. Love the Aussies. I love the accent so much. Hopefully we can get to Australia one day as well. We got Arizona. We got Germany. We got Portugal. We got Colorado, San Francisco, White Plains, New York, Lithuania. You know, Palantir actually has some deals in Lithuania. We haven't talked about it for a while, but that was one of the first Baltic states that they started getting a lot more deals in back in 2023. So that is awesome as well. Maryland, Austria, Washington, D.C., Denmark. We got Saudi Arabia, Belgium, Satya from India, Raul from Miami. I love Miami. I have a little bit of experience now in Miami. So I love that city. Miami and Toronto. Oh my goodness. I love those. I cannot wait to come back to Miami and T-Dot. When you come back to Miami, hopefully soon, dude. Miami is beautiful. But then the other day I was walking through New York. I think it was like 3 days ago. I had to go to New York for something after the market closed. And then I saw the World Trade Center. I saw the skyline. And I'm just like, dude, this is why I can't go to Miami. Like, as much as I love it, as much as there's a tax benefit like that, that isn't, like I was telling Derek, when you look out of his view and you see the ocean, you get serenity, you get peace. When you look into New York City, you get ambition. And I feel like at this stage of my life, I'm more towards ambition versus peace. But if you're a little bit older, you know, you see the peace. It's nice to see the beach and all that stuff. But I feel like that ambition is still so important. We got Nebraska, VA, Belgium, West Coast, Austria, Tokyo, Atlanta, Dubai, Connecticut, Bulgaria, Toronto, Afghanistan, Korea. Got a lot of Dubais in here. Connecticut, Long Beach, California. I love it. Thailand, nothing is like the NY hustle. That is correct. Nothing is like the New York City hustle. Louisiana, UK, Netherlands, Bulgaria, Dallas. Got a lot of Texas as well. Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Brazil. I love it. I love it. I love it. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here across the world. Got a lot of stuff to dive into. Again, every time we do this, it's so cool because it's an entire global community coming all together. Trying to figure out the markets, which is why we're all here every single day. And again, this year, it's been a good year. We're going to do year-to-date percentages at the market close today. Hopefully, Steve will be able to join, and we'll get his thoughts on Nvidia, Ethereum, all that good stuff. But even though it's been a little volatile over the past couple of weeks with some of these tech stocks going down, I think everyone's year-to-dates are pretty strong. And so if we can just keep that going into the end of the year, that will be important. All right, so let's get started with some of these headlines. First off, let's start with Nvidia, because this is why Nvidia is down right now in the pre-markets. Again, yesterday was absolutely criminal. Nvidia got to $184.47. The all-time high just so happens to be $185 or $84.48. So we were at 184.47. 184.48 was the all-time high. Just kind of ironic that 1 cent separated a new all-time high. It's almost like it was planned to not get above that all-time high. And then it went back down. Now, unfortunately, today, this article came out from the Wall Street Journal, and this is what's also leading Nvidia to get some pain in the pre-markets. Alibaba, on their earnings, has announced that they are creating an AI chip to help China fill the Nvidia void. Alibaba developed a new chip that's more versatile from its old processors and compatible with NVIDIA tools, allowing engineers to repurpose programs written for NVIDIA chips. The chip is designed for AI inference tasks and manufactured by a Chinese company. Chinese companies are building substitutes for NVIDIA's H20 chip after Beijing told firms not to buy H20s, citing security risks. I don't think there's any really security risk. Beijing just doesn't want to bow down to Lutnick and Trump and buy the crappier versions of an NVIDIA chip when they could be getting Blackwell. China remains far from matching the most advanced American chips due to U.S. restrictions on cutting-edge manufacturing technology. The country's biggest weakness is training AI models, with Chinese engineers complaining that homegrown chips overheat and break down during training runs. Now, Jensen was on Fox yesterday, and he said the conversations to get Blackwell into China are ongoing with the president, but he did say specifically it may not happen for a while. Now, for a while, does that mean 90 days? Does that mean we get an entire quarter without Blackwell chips? Does that mean a couple weeks? Does that mean another year? Like, we don't really know. It's kind of up in the air. But that lack of uncertainty, which even with no China revenue, you're still going to have $54 billion in revenue, which is $8 billion more than they did this quarter, which is incredible. But $60 billion in revenue would be the type of growth that the street really wants to see, especially because NVIDIA is at this $4.3 trillion valuation. And right now that's up in the air if they actually get it. So that's why NVIDIA right here is down another 1% in the pre-markets, basically been flat the entire week ever since earnings. And I mean, this is what a lot of people have been saying. Brad Gerstner, Tanner, who's part of our community, he's been saying this for the past couple of months, which is just like, hey, you cannot allow the Chinese companies to build on a Chinese tech stack if America wants to dominate. And this is kind of what Jensen's been saying. He's like, look, if everyone in that part of the world outside of North America and Europe, when you go to other parts of the world that are highly infiltrated already with Chinese technology, like a Singapore, says, hey, we're just going to buy Huawei chips instead of NVIDIA chips. Like, that's not the world we want to live in. And that's definitely not going to be the best for NVIDIA earnings. It's going to give China a upper hand. And more importantly, it's going to give China leverage. The most important thing NVIDIA has given the United States outside of the earnings growth is leverage. We have leverage because NVIDIA is the most important commodity, I would say, on the planet right now with these AI chips. So if China is able to get that leverage because they're able to catch up, which again, they're very far from catching up, but if we give them the time and the patience and the energy and the ability to experiment with different companies to catch up, it's inevitable that they eventually will. And so I think Trump is smart enough to realize that we need to get Blackwell into China. There's plenty of demand for Blackwell to get into China. The question is when it happens. And we're going to have to see how that plays out, but hopefully it does soon. So that is why NVIDIA is down right here in the pre-markets. And yeah, I mean, look, at 180, it doesn't need to go that much higher to be fairly valued, but it also doesn't need to go that much lower. So I think it's going to be kind of flat here for a while. S&P 500, 0.18% down. Palantir, That's down about 1% as well. You got Affirm that's up 17%. They crushed earnings. We'll talk about the earnings in a second. And then you got Marvell right here that is down at 14%. Bitmine, this one has had a little bit of a rough week. So the pipe unlocked, which meant shares got diluted onto shareholders. However, Bitmine did use that money to then buy Ethereum. The funny thing about this right now is that it's trading below its cash value. So they have about 9 billion in Ethereum in cash. Right now, they're trading at 7.9 billion. We did some analysis yesterday morning on what happens when Bitmine gets to a level where it trades just below its total cash and Ethereum in and of itself after they do a pipe unlock. And based on the analysis yesterday, it went to 27, consolidated for a week, and then it doubled from there. I don't know if the same thing is going to happen right here. A lot of it is contingent on Ethereum. Unfortunately, Ethereum is down as well as we get into the long weekend at about 4,400, down from 4,600. So that's not helping. But as that continues to marinate, you could see BMNR hopefully consolidate in this range. And then obviously as Ethereum goes higher, it will get above its not only NAV, but its NAV with cash on the balance sheet. So I think this is more so a question of Ethereum as well. And again, Ethereum and Bitcoin both showing weakness. Now they're showing weakness, but the one that's not showing weakness is the ETFs. The ETFs continue to swallow up as much Ethereum as they can possibly swallow while they're dumping Bitcoin. So we showed the stat for last month or this month going into August 1st to August 28th. Bitcoin lost about 800 million in net inflows. Ethereum gained 4 billion. And so there is a bit of a divergence right here between Ethereum and Bitcoin. I think both will do well, but Wall Street is definitely getting more excited about Ethereum. I did not sell my Misty. I still have my Misty, 500 shares, kind of just sitting there. Again, Misty's kind of not been performing that well because MicroStrategy itself has not been performing that well. And we're heading into September. So I think the one thing about BMNR, Ethereum, MicroStrategy, Misty, all these assets is, hey, we're heading into September. If September sucks, these assets are going to take a hit. And so will all the other high beta assets like a Reddit, like a Robinhood, et cetera. Like it is what it is. The question is, do we have to take a hit in September as badly as we have historically? And let's ask that question in the chat right now in a poll, because I don't know. Like we thought that was going to happen. I definitely thought that was going to happen in August. And that didn't happen. We ended up going 4% green. So like, do we get are we strong enough to withstand September volatility? Because even the last time we had this green of an August up 7% back in 2020, September was down 3%. So historically, if you look at the best August that we've had in like the past decade, September tends to suck. If we give back 3 or 4% in September, I'm not going to be complaining about it because we're up a lot. And that usually is what needs to happen before you make the Santa Claus rally leg up move going into November, December. But I do think it would create a buying opportunity. And as a result of it creating a buying opportunity, I did make a move yesterday. We do have rate cuts coming, and hopefully that can help not have that much pain. Closed out the SoFi position. So SoFi spreads, officially closed them out. This was my first 10x on the options market. We bought these spreads for $3,500 back in September 20th, 2024. We sold them about a year later at $40,000 in total value, $37,000 in profit. So that's up about 10x. There was a little bit more meat on the bones on these if I had waited until January, waiting another 5 months. But I have some other ideas of what I can do with that 40 grand. I also wanted to raise some cash. We're going into September. If we do see some juicy dips, I would like to take advantage of it. And as a result, we officially locked in some of these profits. So yeah, that is for anyone asking a bit, what are you doing to prepare for September? It's this, raising 40 grand of cash and saying, all right, let's see what we can do in September. And if we get a really good buying opportunity on any of the stocks that I really care about, if Nvidia gets back down to 160 or Hood gets back down to 90 or something like that, then we'll see what we can do from there. So I'm very curious for everyone in the chat. 61% of you say, yes, we do get some September red. How are you hedging or how are you navigating that September red? I don't think it's a sell all your stocks and get out of the market type of moment. I do agree with Tom Lee. This is likely going to be a buy the dip scenario. But the question becomes, A, do you have, some disposable income, some dry powder to buy the dip? And B, do you have very aggressive covered calls, for example? My 185s on Nvidia, I had one covered call on at 185. So that one did great this week because Nvidia stayed flat. Do I get more aggressive with some covered calls and say, hey, let's do it at 180. Let's do it at 182. Let's not even imagine that Nvidia can get above 185, 190 and be so not conservative with it, because at the end of the day, if Nvidia is going to be flat and we do get some weakness, then we should be able to sell some volatility and pick up some of that covered call premium. Same thing with SoFi, right? Does this thing break out in September with a rate cut? Because the rate cut is bullish for SoFi, and realistically, SoFi's had a good move, but it's not had a crazy move. Or does SoFi go back to 23, 22 and chill out for a little bit as we head into that month? Like, I think that's going to be the biggest question of September. And September 2nd on Tuesday, we are going to find out how the market wants to treat it. Also, a lot of hedge fund managers and money managers are coming back from vacation. And, a lot of them have not been trading in August, which is why the volumes on the S&P 500 in particular have been rather flat. So we're going to see how that money comes back in and how it affects trading volumes going into September. My covered calls are usually out a week. I usually do them every single week. There's no difference between the weekly premium or the monthly premium, but every week you have a better chance to just navigate each situation. So I would tend to do it every single week. But if you don't want to think about it, then you just do it every month and take control of it at the middle of the month or towards the end of the month. Every week just gives you a better chance to roll it more effectively. Money market funds, by the way, this one was surprising to me. Last week, Powell basically said he was going to cut, and money market funds still increased by 18 billion, up to 7.2 trillion. I mean, that was pretty incredible, dude. That just shows you this is why we are not in euphoria. Even if there is some certain piece of froth in the market, you should not see people putting money into risk-off assets like a money market fund when Jay Powell is telling you the yield you're going to get on that money market fund is likely going to go down by 25 bips. You should have people rushing to go buy risk-on assets based on that idea, right? Or at least something where they're not stuck in cash in a money market fund. But no, that increased by 17 billion, which means people are still scared of this market. They think valuations are probably high, and they're also likely afraid of Jay Powell maybe pulling the rug and not cutting rates. Or if he does cut rates, then it's not going to be that effective and the market's probably going to sell off. And I think that's a fair argument for people to make. But the fact that money actually got added to money market funds in the face of what Jay Powell said yesterday or last week, to me is bullish, because it means there's a wall of worry, and you really do need that wall of worry in order for this to continue maintaining some momentum. So that's what we had on money market funds. Now, here's a chart I want to show everybody. I showed this yesterday on the market close, but it's similar to what I did yesterday personally, is take some profits. So retail investors have took profits for the first time in 8 weeks. First time in 2 months, we have net outflows by retail, 900 million of retail profits. Hedge funds sold stocks to the tune of 2 billion. Institutional investors bought stocks to the tune of 1.6 billion. So you got the money managers buying 1.6, you got the hedge funds selling 2 billion, and you got retail investors selling 900 million. In total, investors sold 1.2 billion in ETFs and single stocks over the past week. I think this is healthy. I think this is fair. I think this is not a bad thing to see people take some profits right here. And likely that money will be reallocated into the stock market if you get some good opportunities. So retail in general, retail gets a bad rap, gets called dumb money. Retail bought the dip in March and April when things were cheap, and things are at an all-time high right now, and retail net sold 900 million worth of equity. So to me, I think retail has been very sophisticated this entire year in terms of timing and understanding when to buy, when to sell. And it doesn't seem that crazy that retail investors are taking some profits as well. So that's what we got in the context of these money market funds. Top Fan, thank you for the $20 super chat. Would you be doing a deep dive on RR? They signed another deal today. We looked at them this week. I do think it's worth kind of going deep into what this company does from a robotics perspective. They're up another 13%, looks like, based on the deal they signed today. Yeah, I mean, look, robotics is not slowing down at all. I think Jensen has talked about it a lot on the earnings call and on the previous interviews he did over the past couple of days, that robotics is their next S-curve in terms of getting, at this point, billions of chips that they're designing into these robots, if there are going to be billions of robots on the planet. So it is very interesting to see Rich Tech Robotics. It is a small cap, 463 million. So this one is very volatile, and any bad news can take it right down. Rate cuts would help. But the problem with rate cuts on IWM, for example, which I think will do well, IWM up a little bit right here, is that at the end of the day, the companies in the Russell, they're not growing that much, and they do have a lot of debt. So 25 bips is not going to do a ton for their debt. And the quality of their growth is nowhere near the Mag 7, right? So I think small caps will do well, but I think you need closer to 100 bips of rate cuts for them to really get the tailwind, which maybe that ends up happening. But that's what we're going to have to see for a lot of these small caps going into the end of the year. And we're going to see how that ends up playing out. Speaking of rate cuts, you had Fed President Christopher Waller. He said this yesterday, and I thought this was just hilarious. I mean, obviously, this guy is auditioning to be the next Fed chair. I am back on team transitory when it comes to inflation. Now, look, this to me was bearish because if you lived through 2021, 2022 in the markets, this word right here, this is not a fun word because when Powell said inflation is transitory and inflation ended up being the highest it was in 40 years, aka it wasn't transitory. That was very scary. It gives people a lot of PTSD, right? Because the Fed so miscalculated the quote unquote transitory inflation, and it wasn't transitory, that they dropped the ball and we had the worst inflation in 40 years. So when Waller says I'm back on team transitory, if he's saying it to get on Trump's good side, then okay. But is inflation actually transitory? Given he's saying he's back on team transitory. Now, the bull argument for this is that the tariffs are a one-time price increase, aka that'll happen once, you move on. It's not going to be something that persists. It's transitory. The bear case of that is that tariffs have a structural impact on the level of prices that are going to be increasing consistently in the United States, and that obviously would not be the best thing in the world for inflation. Now, having said that, that hasn't been, I mean, Waller technically, if he's claiming it's transitory, he's been proven right by a lot of these companies that we saw even yesterday that have not been that bad. Gap, they said tariffs are going to increase or decrease their operating income by 100 million. That stock's up 3% because they're able to weather the storm. Affirm's up 17%. It's not like the tariffs are stopping consumers. Affirm is intrinsically a consumer company because of buy now, pay later, right? So it's not like the tariffs are necessarily hurting their ability to engage with customers on buy now, pay later. Ulta, that's up 2.7%. Iren's up 20%. Dell, operating margins are never the best for Dell, but that one's down 6.7%. Petco, ticker symbol WOOF, that's up 23%. So it looks like people are buying food for their animals, their pets, and the tariffs are not affecting that. So all of these companies, and then we had Best Buy, Victoria's Secret over the past couple of days, they're putting up numbers. They're talking about tariffs in their earnings call, but they're not saying that tariffs are the end all be all for how they're going to operate as a company. And when you think of it from that perspective, maybe inflation really isn't that big of a deal, or maybe the tariffs are not that big of a deal in terms of the inflated prices in these retailers, and consumers are willing to continue buying, which is really what matters for the broader economy. And as a result, Waller might be right that inflation is just not that big of a deal right now. And as a result, we should be more aggressive in terms of cutting rates. Now, Celsius is kind of the big story of the day. This one's up 6%. These guys have acquired Rockstar Energy from Pepsi. And Pepsi also then took a further equity stake inside of Celsius. So not only does Pepsi own Rockstar, and Celsius bought Rockstar from Pepsi for $585 million, Celsius is also expanding their distribution deal with Pepsi is expanding their distribution deal with Celsius as well. The deal positions Celsius as PepsiCo's strategic energy drink captain in the U.S., according to the CEO. It marks the next step in PepsiCo reshaping its brand portfolio to position us for long-term growth. PepsiCo will also nominate an additional director to Celsius's board. This stock is up more than 100% this year. It's up more than 3x from the lows, which were around $18-20 back in what, February? Around about that time. That's when they announced the Alani Nu acquisition. So Celsius has just been crushing it, dude. I've never had Rockstar Energy before. I've never had Alani. I think I've had Celsius once. I just never liked the taste of Celsius, but these are major brands. I've heard of these brands before, and it looks like Celsius has just continued to expand their ability to distribute these products. Now, Pepsi again purchased $585 million in newly issued convertible 5% preferred stock from Celsius, increasing its ownership to approximately 11% on an as converted basis. So it's like they're buying something from Pepsi, but Pepsi is taking a broader equity stake in Celsius. So they're kind of getting that money back in the form of equity, and they're continuing to execute at a very high level. So does anyone drink this stuff? Rockstar, Alani Nu, or Celsius? I mean, I know a lot of people drink Celsius. I don't drink it too much, but to me, Red Bull is still the best energy drink. I mean, I know energy drinks are not good for you, but Red Bull to me is like the best one. But these definitely have an audience. Celsius right here up 6.2%. So, I mean, congrats if you're in Celsius. You could have bought this thing in January and just chilled for the rest of the year, and you would have been up more than double. So it's nice to see this one getting some momentum. I love Alani. I drink Monster. Monster is also a pretty big one. Well, Monster, that's like the best performing stock of all time, right? Even though they've been flat for the past few years, but Monster has done very well. Energy drinks taste like cough syrup. That is fair. Now, granted, I'm sure people have had like Red Bull vodkas before, something like that. I think Red Bull is like one of the best energy drinks to mix with like alcohol. But there is a big market. There's a very, very big market for energy drinks. So that's what we got in the context of Celsius. All right, so let's look at a couple of clips and we'll keep going from there. This is a new clip from Tom Lee yesterday that I thought was really interesting. I've never heard this from him before. This was his response to everyone who calls him a permabull. And he goes back to his past in 1999. It actually gave me a lot of confidence on his ability to call a top. Take a listen to what he had to say happened back in the dot-com bubble versus what's happening right now.
I've tried to throw mud, and you've been right for 12 years. Sometimes use the label perma-bear. Slightly different question on that, but I wonder, and it's certainly in the entire time we've known each other, being bullish has worked. And I give you 100% credit for that. But do you think your style, your personal style and emotion is clearly relevant when it comes to markets? Do you think you'll be able to call the end of the bull market? Do you think your style is better suited to bullish momentum or not?
That's a great question. I can say that in 99, when I was a technology analyst and covering wireless, and that was living history of a bubble that really was a lifetime bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I think if people weren't in that period, it was 5 years where literally if someone said buy the stock, it could go up 20% in a week. You know,
is anyone in the chat? Did you live through that? Did you experience the dot-com bubble? Is what he's saying accurate where like you could mention a stock and it would be up 20% in a week? Because I think the closest we had something to that was 2021, but even 2021 wasn't as aggressive as it seems like what he's describing in the dot-com bubble in terms of just like massive levels of euphoria.
And then it would still keep going up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was really a different era than anything we've seen today. But in 99, it was clear to me that we were in a bubble. And I was only in my 20s. But I was at an investment bank, and they kept telling me, Tom, there's this $5 billion IPO, and we need to be the book runner on this deal. So you need to tell them we're going to recommend this stock. And I said, there's no way. I can't. I mean, this business model makes no sense. And so I was not popular with the investment bank, but I passed on so many deals that wanted to do multi-billion-dollar IPOs that would have been hundreds of millions of dollars of fees for the bank. And I would have made tens of millions of dollars because at that time they were paying you for your IPOs.
I did not know this. I really didn't know Tom Lee had a past with a dot-com bubble. So when everyone says, oh, you know, he's just constantly bullish, it's like, well, this was the time in history to not be bullish. And apparently he's saying, and he's going to go even further into the story, how unpopular he was on Wall Street because of how bearish he got, because he felt like we were at a top. And so, you know, when he talks about right now we're at the beginning of a bull market and people just say, oh, that's peak euphoria. Well, he lived through what real peak euphoria was. And he's saying 2025 is nothing like that back in 1999.
So I, with my own reputation at stake, I avoided the implosion. As you know, when that telecom internet bubble burst, many people's reputations got destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Mine actually rose. I was still famous as a wireless analyst, but then I got promoted to be a strategist because I avoided all of that carnage. So if someone's asking me if would I know what a top looks like, by the way, I also had a very famous short, a sell rating on a stock during that era that almost destroyed my career because the company was so angry at my not recommending them that they even complained to the SEC. And my company at the time, it was written up in the journal so someone could look it up.
I'm going to. Maybe we won't add it in the show notes, but I'm going to look it up.
I don't want to name the company but they were so, apparently the CFO said he'd wake up angry and yelling about me
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't recommending a stock. So there's enormous pressure and I still kept a sell rating. So I know what a top looks like. Now, I think one of the things that helps us at Fundstrat is we have Mark Newton, who is a technician who does really good cycle work. And he calls...
What's his handle on Twitter again? Because he's great to follow.
Yeah, at Mark Newton CMT.
Yeah, it's great.
Like
great
country
account.
music technician, I guess, because he does like country music. But he was dead on in 2021. He said that we were nearing a top. I kind of didn't understand how dire his warning was, because we had the 2022 drawdown.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Mark, listen, next time you got to like just really turn off my screen when you're telling me this, because I didn't appreciate the level of the warning he had.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's great to hear you go through those details, and if you guys turn again, everyone will be listening.
So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know he had a past in regards to analyzing the .com bubble. Some of you guys are naming that company as Nextel Communications. I see a couple of you guys name it. I'm actually going to look into this because I've never heard of this beef that Tom Lee had with a company back in the .com bubble. But yeah, here it is. I see an article from 2002 on Forbes. Wow, look at that. There you go. That is wild. Look at that. Nextel tries to reassure investors in the wake of JP Morgan analyst Tom Lee saying the company would like to see a number of improvements in Nextel's financial reporting. Wow. Wall Street Journal, 2002. I pay for the Wall Street Journal, so it should work. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I have to sign in. I'm signed into my phone. But unhappy firm bites back. Nextel says, analyze this. All right. I'll put this article in the chat for anyone who wants to read it. Yeah, so I guess he had some beef with some companies back then. And to me, that's actually nice to see, because it's also like there was a time where Tom Lee was able to get bearish when it was time to get bearish. Now, obviously in 2021, he missed it, and he didn't take the warning signs that seriously. No one's perfect. But I think if he thinks demographically, which is what a lot of fund strats research points to, we are in a bull market and we have the earnings growth to maintain that bullish momentum, then hopefully over the next 5 years, that continues to be the case. By the way, Jensen did say we have $3 to $4 trillion of CapEx coming over the next couple of years, and that also makes it hard to be super bearish. Now, one question that one thing that I heard yesterday from Brad Gerstner, who was on CNBC, and I think it's a hell of a point. People are saying, well, Nvidia has a lot of concentration risk because there's only 4 to 5 customers that are buying all their products, right? Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc. The argument here that Gerstner made, which Nvidia's is his second largest holding, and I think it makes a lot of sense, is if your 4 largest customers are Nvidia, Meta, Amazon, and Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Google, those companies represent 7 billion people because they are the gateway to billions and billions of users accessing or interacting with AI. So the idea that we should be concerned of concentration risk, when in reality, Microsoft is a gateway for hundreds of millions of people to use their products to get leverage towards AI, because I myself am not going to go to Nvidia and say, hey, can I get 7 GPUs? It's like, no, that's not how it works. That concentration risk makes not that much sense. It's like a moot point when the users that need access to all that AI are only going to be able to get access to AI from the companies that have the balance sheets on this planet to be able to buy those products, not to mention all the startups and other companies that need to buy AI workloads from those companies, aka data centers, and those companies need to build those data centers so they can license out all those workloads, cloud computing, etc., to those companies. Not to also mention, this is kind of Steve's point, if one stops spending, then the other one's going to get fall behind, right? So if Amazon stops spending, but Google keeps increasing their capacity to build better GPUs and better models and have better tokenization or have better token generation from their models, then Amazon's going to get left behind. So it's sort of an existential threat for a lot of these companies. The only way the Nvidia concentration risk argument makes a lot of sense is if we have a general economic slowdown. Because if Nvidia and Amazon stock, or Nvidia and Google, Microsoft, Meta stock fall by 30, 40%, yeah, shareholders are probably going to ask them to reduce CapEx to maintain margins. And then you get all of them reducing at the same time. But if that doesn't happen, which based on the earnings we've seen over the past, at this point, 2 years, it doesn't look like that's happening. It's hard to imagine that concentration risk is the scariest thing for Nvidia. And as a result, we should continue to see some of that momentum as well. Did I say a mute point? I mean, like that's I meant that, like it's you guys know what I mean, bro. It's like you can't even a mute point is like, all right, that argument doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's muted, it's a wash. That's a thing. People say that, right? Mute point. Yeah, that's a literal freaking phrase. Oh, it's moot? Oh, it is. Oh, shit. A mute point is a misunderstanding or error for the phrase moot. Dude. Oh, my goodness. You guys are actually right on this. A moot point is an issue that is irrelevant. I said mute. I hate you guys so much, bro. I cannot tell you how much I hate you guys. This is unfreaking. I did not know moot was actually MOOT. I legit thought it was just mute because like it's muted, right? Like you can't tell me that's illogical to be like, oh, a mute point. If something is irrelevant or insignificant, we mute it, right? MUTE, it's muted. So like, I didn't know they had an actual term called MOOT. I promise I did not know that. This is stupid, bro. Like this is just you can't blame me for thinking it's MUTE. Yeah, here you go. This is Google says a moot point is either a debatable topic with no foreseeable solution or agreement. Well, why is it called moot instead of mute? Mute means like it logically means okay, like it's muted. We're not going to talk about it anymore. That's more logical than moot. The term originates from British. Oh, so it's the British. The British caused all this controversy where it meant an issue brought before a moot, a debate or assembly for a discussion. It's always the British, dude. It's always the British. Thank you. Someone says exactly. I thought mute as well. I did for the past 15 years. I thought it was mute point, like MUTE, not moot. Okay. Anyway, this is what Tom Lee had to say about Palantir yesterday as well in that same interview.
Your bull case on JP Morgan and the banks in a second, but Palantir, for example, what is the pushback? And I understand the themes and how the ETF works, but as a standalone, what is your pushback to when people point to the valuation multiple, which is obviously pretty extreme?
Yes. Well, it's confusing because if you have to say like, what is Palantir in one sentence, it's hard to say. Like maybe one description is, it's a consulting company and a software engineering company in one, because they look into a company or a government and they figure out how to improve their operations, but then they can build the solution with the software. So it's like McKinsey plus the best software company. But then that doesn't really explain the synergy of what they do. And that's
by the way, I've interviewed Alex Karp and studied Palantir. That was the best explanation I've ever had.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah. And then I think people put low multiples because it's like the way people said Apple's a handset company, so they put a 10 multiple on it forever. Or they said Tesla's an automaker and put a 10 multiple. Someone will say it's a consulting company or SaaS and they try to suppress the multiple, but if there's a synergy. But I've talked to some real companies, and I don't want to name their product, but they said this completely changed the profile of their business, including their profit margin profile. So in other words, Palantir, I explained it, literally took a company that had a commodity that they had to hedge, and it had like 40 or 50 touch points. It was being shipped in warehouses and actually started in a country because it was harvested and shipped. And they said they just fed all their invoices into the Palantir system, like literally like just cabinets full. And suddenly Palantir was like, okay, this is what you need to do. And they started to make money on their hedging.
He went on to say that the company felt that Palantir was like magic. So good endorsement from Tom Lee in terms of some of the companies that he's talking to with Palantir. It seems like Palantir software is obviously not a mute point. I'm sticking with MUTE. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Friday, August 29th, 9:30. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Nvidia, 177. She goes down 1.5% of the day. Nvidia, 177.41. That is down. Ethereum, she's also getting hit 2.4%. Bitmine, 45.31. That's down about 0.5%. Marvell, just the disgusting earnings, even though they beat on the top and the bottom. Well, they came in line with EPS. They didn't beat on EPS. They beat a little bit on revenue. That one's down 15%. Guidance wasn't the best. The ASIC business, the CEO definitely said they're having some struggles with. As a result, that's down 17%. It's kind of treating it as a commodity in the semiconductor ecosystem versus an actual asset that can't be replaced, like an Nvidia and AMD. And so that one just getting destroyed. That one's down 17% of the day. Open Door is up 6% as the interim president did buy some shares. S&P 500, that's down 0.2. Palantir, that's down 0.6. Webull, good earnings. The only thing I didn't like about their earnings is their option revenue is up 8% year over year. I don't understand in a massive bull market how Webull is only growing options, which is the juiciest form of revenue generating products at 8%. That's just unbelievable to me. I don't get how that makes sense. But top line revenue is growing at 46%, which is good. Weibo right here is down 0.5%. Robinhood, that's down about 1.2%. Robinhood below 103. SoFi, 26.14. SoFi did get to 26.35 yesterday. Did get to 26.35. So let's see if SoFi can continue getting that momentum. Tesla, are we getting a move? Tesla's at 348. It was at 353 yesterday. So you're trying to get back to the 350s. Alibaba, again, great earnings. We haven't had Chinese stocks really make a run for a while. But that stock is up, 8%. Alibaba was $50 back in September of 2024. That's when the Chinese government really started to engage in stimulus. And since then, they've only continued their stimulus, but Alibaba has also been able to put up numbers. Iren, this one was the best one. 22%. Best one since yesterday, even beating out Autodesk and Petco. So Iren really proving from a data center perspective that they are not slowing down. That's up 23%. That stock is now up more than 150% from the lows back in April. And it is done very, very well. Pinterest right here, 36.83. Palantir just going green. SoFi, 26.30. SoFi, 26.40. Okay, SoFi, 26.61 is the 52-week high. So you got about 30 cents to see if it can break above those levels. Tesla right here, 347. Baba, 129. Iren now up 25%. Iren is also shorted a decent amount. And that is also an issue. Let me check the short float real quick on Iren. Yeah, all-time highs on Iren. Well, it's not that. It's 12%. I thought it was 20%. So 12% is not that crazy. But you could be getting a little bit of a squeeze. There you go, $29. It looks like she wants 30, $7.9 billion market cap. Wolf, I think, is running in sympathy with it. Wolf as well, up 2%. Again, Google took a stake in that. Google is 211, about to go green. We don't have the DOJ ruling on Google yet. Hopefully today. Should be coming pretty soon. I mean, it was supposed to happen yesterday. If not today, then I think by next week, we're definitely going to get it. But if they say Google doesn't have to sell off any parts of their business, including Chrome, the market would be very excited. 29.30. Let me know in the chat if you own Iren. I know this has been a retail favorite as well. Let's check resistance at 30 as it's trying to get there. 29.33. That's up 27%. $30 resistance is 54,000 shares. 54,000 shares to get to 30. Okay, this company, Ambarella, I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but I heard of it for the first time yesterday. They're up 28%. This is a gem in the semiconductor world, specifically optimized for cameras, which is the sort of core element of their technology. I had no idea this was a company yesterday, but apparently they're a public company and they had a massive earnings, 28% up on the day. So you had some unknown names like an Ambarella, a Petco, which Petco is not unknown, but a lot of us don't really follow it too much. Just crushing it. Absolutely crushing it. Wolf right here, Petco, that's up 18% as well, $3.82. It looks like they did not have a rough earnings, even though their clients tend to speak in rough terms. So not too bad for Petco. That's up 18% on the day. Nvidia right here, 176, down 1.9. They're taking her down $3 after getting her very close to all-time highs yesterday. Celsius up 4. Russell's up a little bit. Marvell down 16. Bitmine down 1.3. CleanSpark's down a little bit. Meta's down 0.64. Opendoor is up 8 based on the insiders buying some shares. And then Robinhood trying to go green at $104 right now at 103.15. Yeah, it seems like a lot of you guys are in Iren. I mean, this is a good one, dude. This is another retail gem. It's not a meme stock. It's a data center play that transitioned from being a Bitcoin miner. A lot of people did due diligence on it. Ended up playing out. This is kind of the bull case for Nebius as well. Nebius, CoreWeave, Iren, not all in the same bucket, but all kind of in the same ecosystem of data centers. Nebius right here down 2%. CoreWeave was up 7% yesterday. CoreWeave also down 2% right here. But Iren really getting some love on the day. Google going green, trying to get to 212. 212.22 is now the 52-week high. I think that's also the all-time high. So we got to see if Google can get up there. Okay, I see some laughing emojis in the chat. You guys are not as rough of a crowd as the market close was, dude. The market close, these guys were like, did he actually make that joke? You guys are actually giving me some laughing emojis. That's like, not too bad. Someone did say I'm embarrassed for you, but outside of that comment, like most of you guys are a little nicer. It was a rough crowd on the market close. These people were like, what is this guy saying? I had 0 laughing emojis in that one. So this one was better. Opendoor right here at 9%, 468. 68. Now, here's the thing about Open Door that I think a lot of people also have to remember. They might do what is called an offering. Why would they do an offering? Because their stock is trading 10x its book value. At some point, management's going to be like, holy crap, we have all this liquidity. We need to raise money. Now, you might be saying, Amit, well, what if Open Door is just very altruistic? What if they don't need to raise money? Well, there's an example that I can point to that is very similar. OPAD, which is called OfferPad Solutions, this trades OTC, their stock went from 50 cents, as you can see in the chart right there, to $6.58 yesterday. They are an Open Door competitor. They do the exact same thing as Open Door. They do buying and selling of houses. They did an offering yesterday of, I think it was like $200 million, something like that. They're down 23%. So this, I think, is inevitable for Open Door. The question is, will there be enough liquidity to absorb all those shares so that it's not that bad? But the question is when they would do that offering. Now, if they don't do an offering, I think that would be great for shareholders. It's just they could raise a lot of money and actually increase their balance sheet by doing an offering. Question is when they would do that. So Open Door right here is up 10%. And I think part of the reason the CEO and executive team said they're not going to sell stock anymore is because they want the stock to get even higher so that they can then do the offering. And then eventually that'll lead to the stock over time if they can turn around the business going higher, and then they can sell shares. But that is one thing to watch out for Open Door. That is up 10% on the day. Duolingo, how is that one doing? Duolingo, wow, 7% down. My goodness. My freaking goodness. Why is that one down? That's ugly, dude. That is so freaking ugly. Why today? Why 7% on Duolingo? Like, I know Duolingo's been in a tough situation, but with like the AI narrative, that feels like there's a piece of news right there. Tesla also introduced the new Model Y performance in Europe. So we'll watch a video on that in a little bit, but that was one thing that was exciting for Tesla this morning. Tesla going red. Nvidia, wow, 175. They're taking her right for where they took her after earnings. I think 174.30 was the low right after earnings. This one's down basically 5% over the past couple of days. Celsius is up 2%. MicroStrategy is down 1%. BMNR 45.45. That's trying to go green. Open Door is up 10. MongoDB, that's up 50% in the past 48 hours on MongoDB. So shout out to anyone in that one. Hoodie was just green. And then Affirm, great earnings along with Iran and Ambarella. That's up 22%. 22%. Is there Micron news? Let me see. Micron, that stock is also down 0.5%. I'll see if there's any Micron news. Obviously, Marvell did not do the best. I don't think Trump has tweeted today. U.S. moves to revoke SK Hynix, Samsung, Intel unit China waivers. That's bullish Micron then, right? Yeah, this is bullish Micron. U.S. moves to revoke SK Hynix, Samsung, Intel unit China waivers. Huh. I feel like that's really bullish Micron. I mean, if they don't have to deal with that type of competition in regards to SK Hynix and Samsung, which both compete with Micron. Yeah, they can't make their memory chips in China. That seems like it's not the worst in the world. Google, by the way, all-time highs. Google, all-time highs. 212.32. From the depths of 145 2 months ago to now to 212. Not too bad. SoFi's down about 0.5%. Grab still stuck at that 495 range. That's down about 0.5%. Petco, that's up 16. And Barella, that's up 24. Iren, that's up 22. So all the high flyers from yesterday are not really losing a lot of their momentum. Micron is down about 1%. SMCI is also getting hit based on that news. Yeah, SMCI is getting hit as well. That's down 5%. Duolingo, I think there's some actual piece of news because I don't think the street just woke up and took it down 7% today. So we'll try to find if there's any big news there, but that one is getting hit. A little bit of a rotation day. Where is Verizon? Verizon is green. Berkshire Hathaway, are we green? We are green. Okay, what else is value? Caterpillar, is that green? That is actually down 3%. Home Depot, that is green. All right, so you're seeing some of the value names get some green. Oklow's down 2. A lot of the growth names, energy names, data center names are getting some red. AppLovin, that's down 1%. Build-A-Bear, by the way, I saw a stat on Build-A-Bear yesterday. I could not believe it, but it is what it is. Build-A-Bear is up 2,500% in the past 5 years. Palantir is up 1,600%. Nvidia is up 1,200%. So 5 years ago, you could have bought Build-A-Bear over Palantir and Nvidia and got a 2,500% gain, which is kind of wild, but nonetheless, that's how the markets are. UNH, what is going on with that bad boy? UNH is green, 1%. All right, so UNH should be green today. Verizon's green, Berkshire's green, UNH should be green if the rest of the market is getting some pain. Did you cover PCE? Yes, PCE came in at 2.6 for the month of July, in line with expectations. For a core PCE, came in at 2.9, again, in line with expectations. So if there's any weakness today in growth, it's not because of PCE. It's probably because it's going into a long weekend. It's Friday. You got algos. People are selling, but it's definitely not because of PCE. There were no surprises there. And we're probably going to continue to get that rate cut in September. S&P is down about 0.27% on the day. Baba, is that still holding up? Baba's still holding up 9%. We'll go deeper into Baba's earnings, but they pretty much crushed it across the board in terms of cloud growth, AI growth, e-commerce growth. Like, Baba should be, if it wasn't for the CCP and the fears of the CCP, closer to $1 trillion company. This is at 309, or at least half $1 trillion. They have about 180 billion in cash, which is insane. By the way, did you guys hear Baidu, which is like the Chinese version of Google? This is a $30 billion company. They have 30 billion in cash. Like, that's how much of a discount investors are putting on Chinese equities, because there's not that many US companies that have 30 billion in cash and that are also have a market cap of 30 billion that are growing the way Baidu is growing. So, I mean, Baba would be a much higher stock, but CCP fears are always the thing that take it down. Duolingo right here. Now it's down 4%. It was down 7%. So that one's getting a little recovery. OfferPad down 13, CoreWeave down 2, and Barella still up 26. And Nvidia, low of the day. Wow, this is lower than where we were on earnings, 174.80. They're taking her down. They are taking her down. Build-A-Bear is an AI robotics play. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Tell us more about Steve's public debate with Joseph Carlson. Well, he'll come on the show today, hopefully on the close, and he'll be able to explain what's going on as well. And so we'll see what he has to say there. But the whole Costco Nvidia thing is what triggered him. Verizon right here is up a little bit. Grab's still down 0.6%. Nebius, that's down 2.7%. Ambarella, that's down 26 or up 26. Bitmine goes green. Interesting. Got a lot of high beta, but Bitmine going green here. Yeah, Monday is a holiday, so we will do the apartment stream on Monday. We'll do an apartment stream on Monday as I'm moving in this weekend, but Tuesday we'll have the official first trading day of September. ELF is green. ELF is green, up 1.2% along with Ulta, which had a decent day, but Ulta now is red. They had a decent earnings. They were green in the pre-market. Now they are red. Where is SBET? Is that one green? SBET is red. SBET is, I believe, a couple bucks below its NAV. Bitmine is above its NAV, but it's still $1 below its overall cash plus ETH together. Gold, $75 away from all-time highs. Is that true? That is incredible. Gold price, again, this thing is up 27% year to date. Yeah, you're right. Wow. Gold is up now. It's up 30.4% year to date. It's up again today. It is up 0.29% today. There you go. So again, heading into September, maybe the rotation is gold and value plays as the market kind of waits to see how this all plays out in regards to the Fed after a really good August. But you are seeing some momentum in different areas. Elastic, why is that down? Now, Elastic had a good earnings. Not sure why they are down. They were up like 20% yesterday. Elastic goes red. Yeah, I don't know enough about this company. I understand they're kind of like a search engine for enterprises. From a technology perspective, they are down 2.5. They were up 14 yesterday. So looks like the street might be selling them off with a lot of other growth names. Reddit is also down on the day. S&P now down a third. Duolingo still down 7. I don't see any headlines for Duolingo, by the way. It feels like a hedge fund or a money manager woke up and just dumped all their Duolingo. And then Nvidia continues to fall 174.30. The Nvidia fall actually makes a lot of sense. Again, the headline for those that didn't hear it, Alibaba is looking like they are going to create a chip that competes with the H20. And the headline is not, oh, Alibaba is competing with Nvidia. The headline is Alibaba is fulfilling demand that Nvidia cannot fulfill because of export licenses. So it's not like Alibaba is going to come up with something like Blackwell anytime soon. That's very far away. And the H20 is not like a good enough chip for these Chinese researchers to really begin doing work on. But the point is, if there's other Chinese companies filling in the gap to some extent, that's bad for Nvidia. And again, the street's kind of expecting that $2 to $5 billion revenue increase based on China guidance that Jensen said they would get, but it's not guaranteed. And the export license definitely needs to happen as soon as possible for that to take place. Yeah, basically Nvidia's China revenue is going away if that doesn't come out. Nvidia right here down 3%. Broadcom was up yesterday as well. Broadcom's probably going down with Nvidia. Yep, Broadcom down 3% as well. Even PayPal is green. That means some of the value stocks are really getting a move as Nvidia goes down. Dell, that one is, wow, 10%. My goodness. I don't have the reason for that. Dell beat on the top and the bottom. The only thing I can say is margin pressure, but I don't know if that's worth a 10% miss. The Dell COO yesterday said AI demand continues to be phenomenal and they're growing into it and they have no signs of slowing down. So it's not like there was anything they said that would trigger the street to be afraid. But that one is getting hit. SoFi, are we at 26 still? Are we at 26? 25.70. SoFi got hit as well, down 1.3. Yeah, that's why TSS is down. TSS is a supplier for Dell. TSSI, that one's down another 8%. They did some dilution though a couple of weeks ago as well. So this stock's just been kind of in the gutter ever since then. Yeah, it looks like a rotation. Let me pull up the heat map and see what we're looking at here. As you can see on the heat map, the most glaringly obvious red is Nvidia. Down 2%. Everything else relatively. Healthcare is green, insurance is green, financials are green, Visa's green, JP Morgan's green. Industrials are green, utilities are green, real estate's green. Tech is red, but not as red as Nvidia. And then semis are all red, not as red as Nvidia, but they are still red. SaaS, though, is kind of coming back. You got Salesforce that's up. Oh, by the way, I got to show you guys the Salesforce clip of Benioff. This is the first time Benioff has actually talked about Palantir publicly. And my goodness, was he salty. He was salty. He was like, how can I get 100 times sales multiple on my stock? I need to know what Palantir is doing. He was definitely not happy about it. So I'll show you guys that clip in a second. Baidu right here is up 3.6%. What are you going to do with the money you raised from SoFi? You know, I haven't thought about it yet, but I mean, dude, these covered call premiums on BM&R are unbelievable, dude. Like, so I don't know. Maybe we buy some more BM&R. I mean, if we can get down to 42, which was my original price I was looking for back at 42, that would be well below NAV at this point. So I don't know if we easily get there. But if September takes a dump and Ethereum takes a dump just because September takes a dump and then BM&R takes a dump, I don't know. Maybe that's the play. But then again, if Hood gets like 90, like that gets very exciting to me, right? So like, I am very curious to see how bad or flat September is. So I think we give it a couple weeks, kind of just see how it all plays out, unless we see some dramatic moves before. Snowflake right here down 1.6. They were up 20. Buy the dentist the diamond ring. Dude, what if she's watching, bro? Every time you guys make a comment about her, she might be watching and just reading these comments. You're like, what are these guys talking about? Amit, will you keep rolling the BM&R calls if they hit your strike, or will you let them get called away? I think some of them I'll get called away and some of them I'll just roll. Right? Because it doesn't need to be a position that I'm so deeply invested in protecting at the end of the day. But, you know, so far they haven't hit my strike and we're just going to see how it plays out. But I feel like even if they stay within 2 to 5% of my, or 5 to 10% of my strike, I can keep rolling them. And the volatility of it just allows it to eventually get out of that covered call. Now, if it just has a monster move, like Ethereum goes to 7,000 or something crazy, then yes, then you have to roll it far out or you have to let the shares get called away. But I know Tom Lee thinks 10,000 by the end of the year. I don't know if we get 10,000 Ethereum by the end of the year. I feel like you would need to get at least 2 to 3 rate cuts to see that happen. But again, if anyone ever doubts Ethereum or anyone doubts like the entire thesis behind it, I think the number one thing to remember, as I've been going deeper into it, is Wall Street is tokenizing everything. And the tokenization of Wall Street, whether it's real estate, equities, etc., the main beneficiary of that, the USD, right, treasuries, stablecoins, is Ethereum. There's going to be other players, but Ethereum is one of the big winners. And so the short-term price action from 4,200 to 4,500 to 4,300 is largely irrelevant. The question is, is everything on Wall Street being tokenized? And if the answer to that question is yes, and we have ample evidence to prove the answer to that question is yes, that's where I think Ethereum ends up winning long term. UNH right here, 305. That's up 1%. Berkshire is getting a bid today, and Verizon continue to getting a bid. Google just below all-time highs at 212. Right now at 211. Snapchat, is this one moving? This one's been stuck at $7 for a while. Now it's 7.15. Again, I think Snapchat probably gets back to $10, just like it always gets back there. But this one's taking it a lot longer to get back after the earnings dump. And I think it's because investors are just tired of these guys not making any money after 10 years. But you do have Snapchat right here at 7.15. Yeah, they're tokenizing gold. They're going to be tokenizing everything. And as a result of all that tokenization, not to mention Robinhood literally using a layer 2 built on Ethereum for their tokenization platform, it feels like Ethereum's going to win. And I think, again, I kind of think of Ethereum as a company. It's like Bitcoin is a store of value, therefore it goes up because of infinite money printing and the debasement of the dollar. Ethereum, a company goes up if they have products and services that are in more demand and they get the earnings from those products and services that you put a multiple on. Well, when I think of Ethereum, I'm like, okay, they have gas fees instead of earnings, but the more fees they get, aka quote unquote, the more earnings they get, the more of a multiple you put on those earnings because there's actually a use case. And so it's not that hard to understand, but it's also something that would require patience over the long term as Ethereum gains momentum. Bitmine right here, that's up 1%, 46.05. Fubo's up 9%. This one had some news last week and got some momentum. There you go. That's up another 9% on the day. David Sharbutt is also on BMNR right now. He comes from American Tower, so they added him to his board of directors, which is nice to see. Do we know what's causing Duolingo? I don't see it. I did a quick search on X, and I don't see any news on it. I feel like it has to be a no one knows. I would think there would be like an equity report, like a JP Morgan downgrade. Nothing. Yeah, I see nothing. I see literally nothing. Okay, maybe there's this one headline. Google Translate rolls out features for tutor users. I guess Google Translate has a feature that allows tutors to like teach, and there's a new feature they put out today. Maybe that's why Duolingo's getting hit. But outside, I don't know if that's a good enough reason to take it down 7%, but that one's down. Marvell, yeah, Marvell, again, nasty. Didn't expect this one to be this bad, but it is. Let's take a look at the stock draft and see how we're doing on that. Chris does have Marvell, so that's probably going to be hurting his portfolio today. Yeah, that took him. He's now down 8% on Marvell, 0.25% overall. He's green. Matt's up 27. I'm up 11. I'm now down almost 40% on this freaking. How did you guys let me pick this, bro? I just don't understand. When I said Duolingo, how no one on that stream was like, Amit, just like, please reverse that trade. Like, no one let me do that. Steve's down 1.7. Tanner's up 9. Chris is up 0.25. Dude, I could have picked Nike at 62. I could have picked freaking Nike and called it a day. Like, Visa's about to go green, and then everything will be green except Duolingo. Just got absolutely cooked on that. Weekly or monthly covered calls on BMNR. I like doing weekly, but again, there's no difference in the premium, but I just in general like doing weeklies. So that's what I do. Open Door, are we running? Open Door is running 14%, 485 on Open Door. That's great. Duolingo is a great company. Was Palantir a bad company when it was 7? No, but remember, Palantir at 7 did not have the multiple that Duolingo had when I picked it at 474. You got to remember that. I picked a company that had a very aggressive multiple. So I'd be lucky to break even now at this point. So again, I've never said Duolingo's bad. I picked them for a reason, right? Their growth is phenomenal. 40% growth, 60% DAU growth. Like that's the reason I picked it. I wanted to have more growth. I just didn't realize I was picking a company that is being perceived by Wall Street as dead because of GPT, which is probably the wrong presumption. But that doesn't matter for my portfolio. My portfolio is still in pain because of it, right? You know, so it's like, if you take the emotions out of it, it's a great company, but perception-wise, just not a great stock right now. But we have a year left. So we'll see how this ends up playing out. I bought 100 more shares of Nvidia. Dude, I don't hate Nvidia right here. I would like it to get below 170 for me to buy again. My last big buy was at 159. So it's been a while. I bought a little bit at 183, but 159 was like the last big buy. My average is 122.25. So it's up about 45%. I don't know. I would need to see a little bit more of a dramatic decline. Maybe September ends up giving us that. Jose, I see you in the chat. Jose, are you free? Can we talk about Marvell? If you're free, let me know. I'll send you a link and you can come on in like 20 minutes. You can get ready. But I don't understand what the hell's happening with Marvell. So if you are free, let me know. I'm sure people would love to get some clarity on what the heck is going on with that bad boy. Nvidia right here. Yes, that's down about 3% a minute. Are you buying Micron? I've never got into the Micron thesis, so no, just don't know that much about it. I think they are going to be an important player in semiconductors and the overall AI revolution. But the only semi exposure I have is Nvidia. Like, I just have not studied a lot of these other companies well enough. There's no way I could have been long Marvell because I just don't know enough about these guys. Like, I like Spider-Man, but like it's really hard to understand all the nuances of this ecosystem in regards to semiconductors. Whereas Nvidia, I can understand CapEx, I can understand GPUs, and that's pretty much it. Jose said I'm free. All right, cool, Jose. I'm sending you a link. You can hop on in like 5-10 minutes whenever you're good. And we'll see what he can say. Dude, you guys let me get away with these same jokes, bro. I've used this Marvell Spider-Man joke, I think like 7 times over the past year. Every time Marvell has earnings, that joke comes out. But there's always new subscribers that get to see the joke, So I haven't used the Apu joke in a long time. That one I've retired. That one I think I used like 50 times and I officially retired it. Netflix right here at 12:08. But it'll come out eventually. The rough joke, though, that thing has some legs behind it. That one has some legs behind it. SMCI taking a hit. SMCI 5% down, 41.77. Okay, so that one's continuing to get hit with Micron. It's weird, bro. I mean, Nvidia did not have a quarter that would require all these semis to get hit. But at the same time, I can understand the headline by Alibaba working on chips. It's a stupid headline because Alibaba is not beating Nvidia when it comes to making meaningful chips. But in the short term, Street's going to take it down. And again, I actually think this is a really good thing to see Nvidia not go to the moon right now. Like, we need an end of year rally for this year to actually end up the right way. And that means you're going to need some stocks to take a breather in the midst of it. But, Nvidia at 190 right now, going into September, it would be sort of paradoxical, right? Or it would just be a nice decline that you see going into September, and that would piss off people even more. So if it's having some pain right now, maybe consolidates in September, then it has a way to get a leg up. The one thing we know is that earnings growth in Q3 doesn't look like it's slowing down. I mean, we have no macro data in regards to consumer expenditures, retail sales, PCE, PPI, CPI, anything that we've seen over the past month, basically, that would say Q3 is going to be a weak quarter. Obviously, the companies have to perform, but it's like if you have bad retail sales, Meta probably has a bad quarter because advertisers aren't paying that much because consumers aren't spending that much. So Meta's not making as much money on ads. That's not the case. The opposite is happening. And so it just it seems like across the market, we should have a decent Q3, especially if tariffs are not that big of an impact and we have rate cuts coming up, which should lead us to an end of year rally. That 6,900 on the S&P should not be that crazy. Robinhood right here going green, 104. Robinhood, speaking of companies that are going to crush in Q3, I mean, we don't have the August metrics yet. We're going to get them probably in 2 weeks. I think it could be better than July. Crypto's probably not going to be better than July, but I think everything else, the volatility, just by open door alone, which I think a lot of action is happening on Robinhood, open door up 15%. I think Robinhood's going to crush it. And so should be a decent quarter. All right, folks, let's try to figure out what the heck's going on with Marvell. Ladies and gentlemen, Jose, what's up?
What's going on, man? How's everything? Good morning, and hello to your community.
Yeah, good morning, man. I guess first question, we'll get started with it. Why is this thing getting hit this bad by the street?
Yeah, so I mean, right now for companies like Marvell and all these other players, at least that produce some form of data center market, it's all about the AI story. Now, for those that are not familiar with Marvell Technologies, this is a company that provides networking solutions.
Hold on. Is today your birthday?
Yeah, it is.
So you wanted to come on the stream and just not mention that it's your happy birthday, bro. Everyone, we
Thank
got some
you.
happy birthdays in the chat.
Thank you. Appreciate it. 3-3 for me today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Went on your Twitter. It says today's their birthday. I'm like, hold on. We gotta all right, man. Happy birthday, 33 years old. And I appreciate you being part of the community. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. I was supposed to be off today. I was just chilling, doing some like final emails before I go hang out with the family, and I saw you on, and now I'm here. So
And you took time out of your 33rd birthday to spend it with that. Dude, I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
no, thank you. But yeah, I mean, for Marvell, right? This is a company with the AI story. It's all about the AI story for a lot of these chip companies. Marvell is trying to help companies develop their own AI chips. Unfortunately, they only have a selected amount of customers that they're helping do this. And the revenue for that, they even mentioned it during the earnings call, is very choppy. It's like one quarter, they might get a big order. The next quarter, they might not get any. The quarter after that, they will. So I think for this one, it's better to look at like more like the trailing 12 months line opposed to like a sequential bar graph of revenue, because they mentioned that this quarter and next quarter, they're not going to see big orders from their main customer, but they expect it to come out in quarter 4. And they do believe that big customer is Amazon. But again, right now, the story for AI is you should be seeing that revenue strength every single quarter, no matter what. And that's what I think the street isn't liking right now. Overall, I believe there's opportunity. This is the first year that they have real AI chips for their customers. And they talked about it in their AI events that they have a lot more. They call them sockets. So there's different types of chips. You can be AI accelerators. You can be CPUs. You can be somewhere in between. In the upcoming next year, they have even more customers to help kind of eliminate that choppiness of those revenues coming in. So it's kind of like the AI story should be beginning for Marvell. It still hasn't. I think the market wants it to be happening already.
Why do you think the AI story is not starting for Marvell? Like, is that a structural problem with their business, or is that a little bit more of caution around like the AI ecosystem?
Yeah.
and stuff?
I think it's neither Marvell's story nor the area overall market. It's just it takes time to develop chips. Some of these companies are just doing it for the first time. Like Microsoft, I think is one of their customers. They're just really starting to develop certain chips. So it's a process that takes time to first design the chip, then kind of have a data center in progress built out to be able to fulfill that data center with chips. So it's just the lumpiness of the business. I mean, we even saw it from Nvidia, right? Nvidia this quarter, 2 customers. This is the big bearish thesis. 2 customers were like a huge concentration, but it just shows you that dependent on the quarter, some customers might order a lot more AI chips. In the other quarter, another customer might order a big portion of AI chips. So it's just the lumpiness of the data center. At the end of the day, it's all, do I have my data center ready? There's no point in me ordering the chips right now so they can sit in some warehouse until I have the data center. I want to buy those chips when I know the data centers are ready, so I can just roll them in and they can start revenue generating right off the bat. I don't want assets depreciating while I don't have that power ready. And I think that's the biggest issue right now. It's the market is changing, and it takes time for certain players to adjust with it. Marvell, with the market cap of $60 billion, I think after this drop, is definitely one of the smaller players in this AI market that does have some strong customers. Like I mentioned, they've working with Microsoft. I think they're working with Amazon, and there's potential other wins that they have announced for the upcoming year. So they have a good customer track list, and with the 60 billion opportunity, this is one of those growth plays.
So would you buy the dip?
Yeah, I this one I am. This one, yes. It's one of my. I thought I mentioned it like if I was to build a SEM portfolio position, Marvell would definitely be in that list. CoreWeave definitely, Nebius, AMD, Nvidia, Google, and GitLab. That's my 7 portfolio. If I was to have a 7 portfolio list, that would be it.
Got it. Real quick before the next question, guys, consumer sentiment just came out. Nothing too crazy from here. Expectations for 1-year inflation 4.8 versus 5, so that's a little bit lower than expected. 5-year inflation 3.5 versus 3.9. That is decently lower than expected. And then current conditions 61.7 versus 60.9. Nothing too crazy on the market based on those inflation expectations. SK Hynix and the news about Micron and Samsung. What is your take on that?
Any quick refresh on that? I honestly haven't seen anything this morning, so let's see if we can pull up.
Yeah, let me pull it up right here. It's
I'm gonna have to
essentially,
guess this HBM4 stuff that they.
it looks like the US is not allowing these guys to make their products in China. SK Hynix, Samsung, and Intel.
This is interesting. All right, to revoke China waivers. At first, this is kind of new to me, so I don't want to feed false information on this one. What my first thought process would be is what kind of products were they previously allowed to send that are now being unable to send? I'm going to believe it's not everything. In the memory market, there's so many different products for the consumer space, for the data center space, for the AI chip market. I'm going to guess it's something for the AI chip market. If that, again, I would have to just see the growth. They can't make memory stuff in China. All right. Then I would have to go Halavista. I would have to go like how many plants do they have in China that are making that advanced manufacturing stuff? If it's just so this is brand new news. I don't want to. It seems interesting. A lot of questions are popping into my head. I don't want to say anything that could create a reaction in either side.
Yeah, it definitely just shows how dynamic the semiconductor ecosystem is when you have something like a Marvell falling 15%, and then you have breaking news on Micron. Nvidia itself, so we didn't get to talk after earnings. So we were on the earnings live stream together. So I think everyone knows your general reaction. You thought Nvidia crushed it, but why do you think the stock's down 5% since then?
I don't know. I mean, I think the market doesn't like the uncertainty about China, which I think is wild. Because I'm still amazed that they did 46 billion this quarter without China market, and for next quarter they're expecting 54 billion without China again. So they're growing $8 billion on a sequential basis without one of the biggest markets out there. It's kind of just showing the excitement. I think right now there's a lot of bearish thesis of. I think we talked about it. Everybody wants to nitpick something. The new bearish thesis is first Alibaba really coming out with an AI chip that's going to be competing with Nvidia. I like the ASIC, this custom AI chip bear thesis. I think it's a great bear thesis if you're just starting to understand how to become a bear for Nvidia. It's like level one. This is level one of I'm a bear for Nvidia. The reason being is the easiest way to kind of destroy this thesis is Google has been building AI chips for almost 7-8 years now, maybe a little bit longer than that. And they're still a heavy customer of Nvidia. You're going to tell me someone's going to make a chip for the first time with that, and they're going to destroy this dependency of the Nvidia market? I don't think that's even possible. The other thing is like Google's really good. Like Google has done a lot for the AI chip market and AI server market that no one else has done it. And again, they still have that strong dependency of Nvidia. So right now it's just a lot of headlines. We kind of saw the other bearish thesis that just popped out that 40-something% of revenue comes from 2 customers. I mean, how is that even a thought before? It's like these are the players that are spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year. How did you not think those customers weren't going to be 10-15% of total revenue? So some of these various theses I feel just like lack a little bit of common sense. I'm getting a little fired up, but I think right now it's just a lot of negative headlines. I agree with what you said earlier. Is I don't mind if the stock just relaxes for a bit. I wouldn't mind a Santa rally at the end and get to enjoy the end of the year. I don't expect the stock to always continuously go up, but I do think these bearish theses that I'm hearing right now are pretty just either refreshed, level one of the bear argument. And I like that post you made because I'm going to have a fun time making a quick episode of kind of debunking a lot of those bear theses.
Yeah, my post was I don't understand the Nvidia bear case, and you had a bunch of people in the comments try to give one, and that'll be a fun video to watch from you debunking.
Like I said, I can understand a bear, how far you are in the bear thesis of Nvidia depending on what you use. The ASIC market is usually level one of I'm just starting to hate Nvidia. Obviously, this is where I'm going to start off at.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Jose, don't want to keep you too long on your birthday. WhatthechipHappened.com. That is Jose's newsletter. Please make sure to subscribe to that. Have you done the Nvidia review yet on the newsletter?
No, I've been reading just like crazy, so I haven't done anything. This week was crazy, but I'm gonna enjoy today. Over the weekend, I will have a nice amount of information for all the readers there. So this one is just a crazy week for me.
All right, there you go. Jose's YouTube, I'm putting in the chat as well. Are you going out anywhere for your birthday?
Yeah, the wife and I are going somewhere over the weekend with the little one. And today we're just doing a dinner with the family.
Can we tell
Family man, yeah.
Can we tell everyone the funniest thing you told me after Nvidia earnings? Jose dropped off his kid to his parents so he could focus on Nvidia earnings. And then like 2 hours after Nvidia earnings, we were texting and he was like, oh shit, I got to go pick up my kid.
I got to go. Yeah. I was like, oh, damn. I know I have to do something. I got to go pick up my little one.
He was so deep into Nvidia earnings. He forgot.
Yeah. That day is my day for the channel.
Yeah. I love it. All right, Jose, enjoy it. Happy 33rd. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See ya. All right, folks. Markets are going down. So Nvidia low of the day, it hit 173, bounced a little bit, but we're down. Hoodie, it looks like they want to take her below 100. They got to 101, now it's at 102. S&P is down 1%. That's a move. 1% down day on the S&P 500. That's a move. That means we were up 4.5% for the month. Now we're up 3.5% based on where the S&P 500 is right now. And I think part of this red is because of PMI, if I'm not wrong. It looks like PMI came in way worse than expected. The consumer, Michigan consumer inflation projections were fine. But PMI came in at 41.5, Chicago PMI versus 46. Now, that was a 945, so that was 30 minutes ago, but it seems like the effects of that are kind of happening right now. That is a pretty big miss by about 5 points. And that might be the reason. But you are seeing some pain. By the way, this whole Lisa Cook Fed thing or Trump thing, they're in court today. I didn't know they were going to court today. We'll get a little bit of an update on that right now, but apparently that lawsuit is taking place and we might get an understanding of if Lisa Cook is fired or not in the coming days or even in the coming hours.
Has arrived here at the courthouse. There you see him making his way in. Also, the attorneys for the Department of Justice have arrived here as well, defending the president's prerogatives here. And we've got these dueling filings now from both sides. We've got a filing from Fed Governor Lisa Cook in which she's suing the president and the Fed. And she says, even if Governor Cook had committed the infractions that the president alleges, which she did not, the president would lack cause to remove her. And that word cause is the central point of this fight. You see the Department of Justice filing just this morning on the same point. They say the president retains a broad discretion to remove a governor for cause. So the issue before the judge this morning is going to be A, what does cause ultimately mean? And then B, whether or not to grant a temporary restraining order blocking the president's attempt to fire Lisa Cook while this lawsuit plays out. So what Lisa Cook wants this morning is the court to say, President Trump, you have to stop. Lisa Cook is allowed to stay at the Fed until this issue is resolved in the court. That could be weeks or months from now. What the government wants is for the court to reject that restraining order and the court to say the firing can proceed and we'll hear this lawsuit out in due course and we'll determine where we go at the end of the lawsuit. One issue that has been a mystery all week, at least to me, guys, is whether or not Lisa Cook retains access to her office and to her devices at the Fed, given that the president has said that she should be fired. I am told now that there has been no change in Cook's status at the Fed, and she does, in fact, retain access to the office and to her devices. So that clears up that mystery. It's not clear whether she's actually physically been to the office, given that it's the last week in August, Labor Day weekend. She'd been traveling in Jackson Hole, et cetera, et cetera. So what we know now is that she does retain access to the office and devices, and there's been no change in her status at the Fed. Back over to you guys.
A minute.
Okay, so it doesn't look like that's having the biggest impact on the market. It looks like PMI and honestly, just like Friday selling, end of month selling, like you probably do have people taking profit. I took some profits yesterday on SoFi, right? So just like I took profits, just like we looked at that stat, retail took profits of about 900 million last week, first week of selling, net selling in over 9 weeks. seems like on Friday, August 29th, people are taking some profits, which is healthy. That's fair. And, you know, you can't be too mad about the S&P falling to 640, given it was at 618 on August 1st. Remember, August 1st was bloody. It was down 1.6%. And now we're at August 29th. And, you know, you're up 3.5%, which is not too bad. But Nvidia right here, 174, that's down 3. Hoodie, 102. Again, BM&R down 2. I agree with Tom that in September, if you get some aggressive dips, if you have some dry powder, those dips are meant to buy. Because if you got rate cuts, you got earnings growth, unless you have anything structural that's scary about the economy or like some massive labor market report or some massive inflation hedge, you know, these are going to be dips that end up working out. Tesla right here down 2% as well. Celsius still holding 5%. Some of the names that had a good earnings like Petco still holding up 21%. Ambarella still holding 17%. Iren was up 30. Iren is now up 16. So gave back about 15%, but still up 15%. You can't be that mad for Iren. And so, yeah, it seems like people are scared for September. It is what it is. Not actually that surprising here going into this long weekend. But that's what we got. Let me see if Trump tweeted anything today. There was a headline that Trump officially got rid of Secret Service for Kamala Harris. Usually former White House officials and presidents retain their Secret Service, but it's up to the discretion of the current president. And he today took it away for Kamala Harris. He tweeted about 10 hours ago, carjacking in D.C. is down 87%. All other categories of crime are likewise down massively since I got involved. D.C. will soon be a crime-free zone in only 14 days, far faster than scheduled. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so ever since then, we haven't had any other major tweets. VPs only get 6 months typically. Yeah, I think Obama still has his Secret Service. Like usually if you're a former president, you end up keeping it for, I feel like for the rest of your life, if I'm not wrong, or at least for a long time. But we are seeing some weakness right here. Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to point to a reason for the weakness, it would be PMI, because that is way lower than expected, 41 versus 46. But even that doesn't feel like the actual reason. It feels like people are just taking some profits. Here is the update on some of the macro data we got this morning.
It's a real mixed bag on University of Michigan. Now, remember, this is a final read. A couple weeks ago, we had the initial numbers, and there's been a lot of changes. The initial number for headline was 58.6. It moves down 4 basis points to 58.2. Wrong direction, sequentially lower, weakest since, well, just May of this year. But current conditions, exact opposite. 61.7 replaces 60.9, sequentially higher, best since July. Expectations, sequentially lower, and we lost ground from 57.5 to 55.2. So this, or 55.9, that would be the weakest since May. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you look at the one-year inflation, on our last look, it was 4.9. It moved down to 4.8. And if you looked at the 5 to 10-year inflation, it went from 3.9 to 3.5, a fairly big jump. 3.5 would be the lowest just since July, but it underscores how wacky some of those inflation numbers were in this sentiment environment where respondents, of course, were affected by all the political issues of the day, liberation, and all the notions of fear over inflation from tariffs. It has settled back a bit, and it's one of the reasons I think interest rates are starting to slip a little bit. You now have 2-year and 3-year in positive territory with lower yields than their close yesterday. Carl, back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you very much, Rick Santelli. Let's get a look at our roadmap for the rest of the hour. After the break, Mark Zandi from Moody's will be joining us.
Yeah, so I don't think it's the macro data that's causing any of this pain right here. I think it's Friday. And end of month. What are you guys doing? Is anyone taking profits? Anyone selling covered calls? Anyone buying puts? Anyone raising cash for September? Again, I sold my SoFi options yesterday, raised about 40 grand of cash. So we will eventually deploy that capital if we get an opportunity. But curious what people are doing. This is the new heat map again, a bit more red in tech and more green in defensives, healthcare, and utilities. So, I mean, classic rotation day, but even with the rotation, all the names that are red have had a great month. Like Meta, again, August 1st, Meta was at, where were they at? 695. So now you're at 740. I mean, like, you got same thing with Apple. Apple was at 198. Now it's at almost 230. Like, you still had a great month for a lot of these names. 232 on Apple as we head into September. I have some SoFi shares, about like 50 SoFi shares on Monday. This is the question I was asking Tanner and Roy on the podcast we did on Monday. I was like, dude, do you guys think SoFi could do a hood or a Palantir? Could buying at 26 be like if you had hood at 26 or Palantir at 26 again, you would be very happy with the return. Is SoFi going to be like that? And, Tanner kind of hesitated to say that, yes, that would be the case, which is fair. But I bought 50 shares. I might buy some more shares on like a dip back down to the low 20s. But my question is, could SoFi get to 50 by next year? Could it really just become like a dominant? And the way it easily gets there is if Galileo and Technisys grow 30%. Like if Noto surprises with that, this thing is going higher because now you have a definitive multifaceted ecosystem around technology, lending, brokerage, etc., to really make this thing an animal. But I don't know. I don't know if it can easily get there. You gotta have some magic happen for stocks to go up 3-4x like Palantir and Robinhood, and then go up another 3-4x. Because then by then everyone's like, all right, it's made its move. It went from 7 to 25. Boom, the move's done. For it to go from 25 to 100, it's just got to have something really special happen. And my question is, will SoFi have that take place? Now, granted, they did raise some money, so they could have an acquisition soon that could help them get there. But I think they're also paying off some of their debt with that capital, which means it might not just be for an acquisition. Oldest daughter getting married this weekend, which means that my income will be going back into stocks as usual into September. Tanner can answer that question regarding SoFi. I own my share of it. Pedro, I forgot your daughter is getting married this weekend, so congrats on that. That should be fun. You'll have some income coming back instead of going to the wedding into the stock market. And maybe September gets you some deals as that money comes back in. SoFi right here down 1.7. Reddit's down 1%. Sharp Link's down 3%. Ethereum, she's trying to hold on to 4,300. As a result, Bitmine and SBET are getting hit as well, down about 2%. S&P tried to recover a little bit, still down 643. Now it's at 644, but still down on the day. And then Nvidia, I think, bottomed at 172, 173.76. Now it's at 175. So that one getting a little bit of recovery. Why are we dumping? Again, it just feels like end of month selling. I'm just so happy PCE was decent, bro, because if PCE was not good, this would have been really ugly. If PCE came in worse than expected going into September, you would have had questions about the rate cut, all that stuff. So whoever Trump had to call it the BLS to make sure PCE was legit, I'm just happy that we got that in the right direction. Ironically, PCE is actually one of the biggest metrics that's hard to like fabricate. The jobs stuff is actually kind of easy to flip up and down. PCE is a very sophisticated methodology to coming up with what inflation looks like. So hopefully that one doesn't get hit. Let's listen to Gabriella Santos. This is one of my favorite analysts on JP Morgan. She was on yesterday, and here's what she had to say about the state of the bull market and why it's likely to continue.
Next year, more all-time highs, normal upward climb of the market. I think what's been interesting from this summer has really been the rotation within the market. So clearly these mega cap tech companies are doing very, very well. Incredible earnings. It's just the magnitude of the earnings beats have been decelerating. And so you're seeing a nice rotation within the AI theme to also include software infrastructure and, of course, to include physical infrastructure, including utilities, industrials. So it's already moved on to that new phase of the theme, which is really encouraging. One of the things we ask ourselves about the fall is whether this other rotation, this one from tech to cyclicals, continues. And that's where we say, probably not. It's much more of a sugar rush than an actual protein boost.
Why?
Like you're seeing elsewhere.
Ed just went down the list of the menu, and it sounds like you're going to be eating a lot of protein in the months ahead. Why is it just a sugar rush?
I think it makes sense to have a bounce off the lows, low expectations for the group, a lot of doom and gloom, especially in April. But if you think about it, next year, we personally just expect a re-acceleration due to tax rebates from the fiscal bill, but then a deceleration again to settle around normal growth patterns. If you think about Fed cuts, we think they're very gradual and just getting back to normal from 4 to 3. And then lastly, if you think about a lot of these cyclical sectors, consumer discretionary, small caps, autos, still very vulnerable to margin pressure from tariffs. And that story we don't think has completely played out yet.
How about that?
Well, look, I think that the resilience of the economy has been a big surprise to most people. In turn, that's been confirmed by the resilience and better than expected earnings we've got. So I'm actually scratching my head a little bit of wondering why these profit margins are holding up so well. And the only answer I can come up with is the productivity numbers might actually be stronger than expected. And we could have upward revisions in that area. We just had real GDP in the second quarter revised up from 3 to 3.3%. But all in all, I'm thinking that that the market is clearly rotating, as Gabriella said, and I think that it's we're seeing also rotation into the mid caps, small and mid caps, and the earnings have been very disappointing there. But I think that to the extent that we've been recommending overweighting information technology, communications, industrials, and financials, and all of those have worked very well in the large cap area, we would start rotating into some of the mid caps and small caps in those 4 sectors.
What?
So Yardeni's like, wait a second. The reason earnings have been so good has not necessarily been because of top line revenue growth. It's been because of margin enhancement on net income, right? So EPS has gone up, and that's due likely to productivity or some level of efficiency in a business. And as a result of that, it's just hard to deny that that is something more transformational. I mean, literally 2 days ago, I had to draft up like not a legal document, but I had to draft up some type of agreement that was like written in like quote unquote legal terms, like lawyer talk. And I just needed it for some project. And so I needed to just come up with some agreement. It was like 7-8 paragraphs at best. Before ChatGPT, and this is why that guy's comment who was like, oh, if Nvidia didn't exist, none of us would even notice it. I'm like, dude, I don't understand what that guy is smoking. Before ChatGPT, I would have to contact a lawyer. I would have to Google lawyers near me. I would have to get in touch with the lawyer. I'd have to pay them whatever amount of money they want to pay to draft up like a 1-page document. And it would have to be in the right sort of vernacular so that I could submit that document and get the job done. On ChatGPT, I just prompted it to be a really good lawyer. And I was like, hey, this is exactly what I need. This is the terms of the agreement. This is what both sides have already agreed on. I just need a document that allows us both to sign it and agree to it. Can you just draft this up? Within 5 seconds, I have my document and I'm ready to go. And so it's like that intrinsically enhances my productivity. It allows me to get more things done. It allows us to progress on the deal that is being made, which in the future can result in more whatever for the economy. Like all this stuff is based on that LLM being able to do what I needed it to do because of NVIDIA GPUs. So it's incredible to me when people are like, oh, if NVIDIA didn't exist, we wouldn't notice it. It's like, dude, I noticed it. And it would be really annoying to have to go through a real lawyer just to draft up a simple agreement when you could do that on GPT. Austin says LLMs are great for legal work. I have a lawyer friend. He said everyone in the office uses it and it saves a ton of time. There's a company called Harvey that you guys might have heard of. Harvey Legal AI. This is like one of the best AI companies that is, I think like they have like 100,000 law firms that use these guys. But yeah, they are like the de facto legal AI platform. And the point is that's a simple example to make the argument for this AI stuff actually does increase productivity. Now, I can imagine that in a company, I'm talking about my productivity, but inside of a Fortune 500, that level of productivity and margin enhancement should lead to better EPS growth. And if so, it should do very well. I use ChatGPT for my taxes, so I don't file my taxes with ChatGPT or anything, or get like a full-on read, but because obviously you have to go through an accountant for that. But I definitely use ChatGPT to estimate my taxes, and it does a damn good job because it's updated on all the rules and regulations. It can search immediately. You know, what are the latest tax laws inside of New Jersey, for example. And then it's a calculator on steroids, right? You can calculate all the numbers in a meaningful way. And then you can ask it to find different quirks for you, to find different ways you could save here or there. Like, it's a really valuable tool that I couldn't imagine my life without it. Now, obviously, it's not perfect, right? And you probably do need to go through a bunch of different ways, but still, it is definitely better than not having it, especially if you just want a precedent for something. I do exactly the same. So useful for planning purposes. Yeah, like if you already know your capital gains, if you already know your LLC's revenue this year, if you're self-employed, if you have your W-2 income and you just throw it into ChatGPT and then tell me what I owe, I mean, more or less within a couple percentage points, I think you're going to get the right answer. Reddit right here is down 1%. Broadcom getting hit with Nvidia as well, down 4%. And then SoFi, 25.55. Bitcoin loses 109. So Bitcoin down to 108.5. Again, the Bitcoin ETFs have had a pretty ugly month. Bitcoin treasury companies as well had a pretty ugly month. So, I mean, it's taken down Ethereum with it, and a lot of the Ethereum proxies, along with Hood. I mean, it's going to be hard for Hood to get to 120 if Bitcoin and Ethereum are down as much as they are. But at least Hood is holding above that $100 range. Why not use Grok if you pay for it? That's what I mean. I'm being like, I'm just saying, see, this goes back to my point about opening. I'm saying ChatGPT when in reality I use Grok, but I'm saying ChatGPT because when I think of AI, I think of ChatGPT. I don't think of Grok, even though I use Grok. But yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I'm using Grok. The point is these LLMs are real. And so when that Marco Klonovic guy is like, oh, if NVIDIA didn't exist, it wouldn't even matter. No one would recognize it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I would definitely notice if it didn't exist because my life would be a lot harder to get things done on the day-to-day. And it's hard to imagine that wouldn't have an impact. Any thoughts on Grab for next year? Dude, I'm still sticking with my price target by 2027. I still think Grab gets to 10. I just think as we're in August, as volume has slowed down, I mean, look, the volume on Grab is 4 million shares today, dude. Like, just no one cares about it right now. No one cares. I mean, the broader market, the S&P volume is already flat compared to where it was in July. So I think the thing with Grab is that they need earnings to continue to prove to the market that they deserve a multiple. It's either that or they make a big piece of news with the cash they have on hand. Until then, it's dead money. Now, again, you either hate that and you can get into something way more volatile. I actually like that because in a market that's expensive, because we can't deny the market's expensive, Grab to me is cheap. And if I get to buy something where it's basically flat until it makes its move, at least it's not going down, that to me is better than buying something that could fall 10, 15% if you get a slowdown. So yeah, it's dead money for now. I think 2027, it has its move, or throughout 2026. But they're going to need to put up the earnings growth. Also, again, when in doubt, I mean, look at the institutional holdings. It went from 81 to 83.5%. Like, the toots are buying. So although the stock's not moving, the people that need to be loading up are loading up. Howard Marks, Ray Dalio. I mean, like, every signal I needed to see outside of earnings growth in Q2, I have been able to see from a macro. But also, there's no inside, dude. Again, Grab, the insiders sell pretty much every month, is what I've noticed. If you look at the past few years, they have not sold in 3 months. And the last time they sold, it was like a measly 10,000 shares or something. It's nothing crazy. So I'm like, okay, the insiders are not using Grab as liquidity. Remember, these insiders have their shares at an average of like 20 cents, 30 cents. So this is still a massive move for them if they were to sell at $5. And just historically, they tend to sell every month. We haven't gotten a sell in a long time. So to me, I think they realize something's going to happen and then they're going to sell, but you just got to be patient on it. Open Door loses its 20% pump today, back down to 440. That is now up 3%. Open Door volume as well lagging at 162 million, but still a lot of shares that have been traded. By the way, Nvidia yesterday traded 5.2 million contracts. It's insanity. 5.2 million contracts. Today, Nvidia has traded 700,000 contracts. Tesla's at 363. Weeble's at 236. Weeble's the top 3 stock traded in the options market today. Affirm is number 4 at 197. Opendoor is number 5 at 194. And then you have AMD, IBIT, Baba, Palantir, Marvell at 132. IREN at 125,000. MicroStrategy, Apple, Hood, CoreWeave, SoFi, Ethereum ETF, Galaxy Digital, ASTS, and BitMine at 62,000. So Webull, Tesla, and Nvidia are in your top 3 for the option markets today. Pedro, thank you for the $10 super chat. This is to honor daughter Sarah, who's getting married this weekend. So proud of you, Sarah. Thank you for the value you bring and essentially lead to our retail community. Admit we live in the best of times. Pedro, thank you again for the super chat and congratulations to your daughter. That's got to be super cool for you as your daughter is getting married. You know, it's similar to kind of what my mom's been talking about as I'm moving out. I'm not getting married, but I am moving out, right? So I'm kind of leaving home and going on my own. And the same thing is happening with your daughter. So as a parent, I know it must be definitely emotional in a bunch of different directions, but very, very happy for you and for Sarah. Do you think Micron can be the next Nvidia, Amit? No. I think that would be tough for Micron to be the next Nvidia. I think Nvidia is the next Nvidia, bro. Those earnings were phenomenal. Like, this was a good quarter. There was nothing around this quarter. This was a great quarter. There was nothing about this quarter that I would be upset about. Street didn't love their China guidance. Here's Brad Gerstner yesterday talking a little bit more about this quarter for Nvidia.
All of this is a company that is accelerating at scale, the largest scaled build out of compute in history, despite all the wrangling on tariffs in China, despite the transition and the ramping up of a new generation of chips in Blackwell that a lot of people thought they couldn't pull off without some major hiccups. And, you know, I kind of laugh, Scott, because I look back. I remember at the end of 24, I had some friends who said, we're going to short Nvidia because they can't possibly grow this fast in 25. And they blew away expectations in 25. And now some people are wringing their hands about 26. And what did they hear on the call yesterday? Jensen said, you know, when he was on our pod last year, he said, we think the build out between now and the end of the decade is $2 trillion of total compute. Last night on the call, they said 3 to 4 trillion of total compute. He told us that inference was going to billion X, right? Why do we have this massive build out? Because inference time reasoning has led to an explosion in inference. Think about this stat. A year ago, Google per month was doing about 9 trillion tokens a month in terms of inference generation, right? Compute generation. Today, it's 980 trillion tokens. So from 9 trillion to 980, it's a 100x increase in a year. You have to build compute in order to do that. So the world is massively supply constrained when it comes to compute. They're 50, you know, he said yesterday, the world will continue to grow at 50%. So think about this. If you grow, and people asked him, are you going to grow at 50%? He said, well, I think we're going to maintain market share. So the consensus for next year is 250 billion of data center revenue. If they grow at 50%, that's only closer to 300 billion or closer to $8 a share, right? And $200 at $8 a share, you know, is about 25 times. So below market multiples in terms of PE. So
if Nvidia does $8 of EPS and we get to theoretically buy that at 25 times, I mean, dude, that's one of the cheapest Mag 7 stocks. It's one of the cheapest stocks in the market that has a revenue CAGR that Nvidia has, and obviously a market cap that Nvidia has. I mean, that means 180 is an absolute steal. The question is, can they actually put up $8 of EPS? We're going to have to see. But if they can do that because of China revenue, then, you know, this thing should not be anywhere near the 150s or 160s. By the way, before we go back to this, Atlanta Fed just put out their forecast for Q3 2025 GDP, 3.5%. Expectations was 2.2. My goodness. Now, this makes sense because we just had our current GDP read for Q2 coming at 3.3, up from 3%. So if Q3 continues to be in line with the Q2 trend, which would be around that range from 3.3 to 3.5, Atlanta Fed calling for 3.5, that would be pretty dramatic. I mean, the only concern there would be, does that massively increase inflation? Which we're going to have to find out. But if it doesn't, dude, we are going to have one of the hottest economies in the history of the United States. If we're able to grow at this rate with these amount of companies that are innovating in the age of AI, that are not slowing down with their CapEx, we are going to have a bull market for the next 4 or 5 years if this actually plays out. So we got to see. We got another 90 days until this plays out, but 3.5% growth. Also, we desperately need 3.5% growth because we have a deficit that we have to pay for. But it would be nice to see if we can put up these growth numbers.
Here's a company that I think is hitting on all strides, has an incredible leader, and I think they delivered the quarter they needed to deliver.
Let's talk about a few of the issues. Jensen Huang said that bringing the Blackwell chip to China is, quote, a real possibility. This issue has obviously been in the headlines lately, enough that you posted on X earlier today that says now is a critical time for the U.S. government to accelerate and U.S. AI companies to rapidly expand and compete around the world, including Nvidia chips in China. Ceding China and its massive AI ecosystem to Huawei and dragging our feet on licenses will only hand more market share to the China AI stack. I guess after reading that, my question is to you, are you saying that the government is in the way here unnecessarily and needs to get out of NVIDIA's way?
Well, listen, I think over the last couple of years, the government has, followed a course of action that they thought was correct, but it wasn't, right? The binary of diffusion rules created massive obstacles to the diffusion of U.S. AI technology around the world. Those have now been repealed. David Sachs is kind of leading the charge as the head of AI strategy in the U.S. government. And the president himself has now signed an executive order that says we need to accelerate licenses and we need to accelerate the U.S. AI stack around the world. It's existential. We want more market share. Just like we wanted U.S. internet companies to win around the world, we want American AI companies to win around the world. And you can't win around the world. And Jensen has made this point time and again, and it's true. China is 50% of the AI researchers in the world, right? We want Tesla competing in China. We want Apple competing in China. And we want Nvidia competing in China and winning over the hearts and minds of those AI researchers. If we cede China to Huawei, it makes it vastly easier. And we already know the U.S. has underestimated Huawei's chips. It makes it vastly easier for Huawei and the very, very sophisticated model ecosystem they have with things like Quencoder or things like DeepSeek to win around the world. And so the U.S., I think, was going too slow. We're accelerating. But this is a reminder that we need to do it. And we see some of this wrangling going on in Washington. But I think the president, he said again yesterday that he has a great relationship with Xi. I think we're going to get a big deal done with China. I think it will include Blackwells in China, and it needs to include Blackwells in China in order for the U.S. to maintain the lead. So remember, the numbers that I quoted at the top of the show, Scott, all the guidance for this company excludes China. China is a $50 billion market for Nvidia unto itself. So I believe that the probability they're going to be able to sell chips in China is north of 50%. They already can sell H20s in China, and I think they ought to be able to sell a competitive Blackwell, deprecated Blackwell chip in China as well.
I think he's right, dude. I think he's right. It's very hard to deny NVIDIA's capacity to be able to service one of the leading AI companies or AI countries in terms of researchers outside of the United States, which is China. And, it seems like it feels good to say, oh, we don't want to sell to the Chinese because of national security, when in reality, it doesn't do a damn thing for national security. Like, it's only going to hurt American prospects and obviously Nvidia as well. So I think Trump's going to eventually get this Blackwell license granted to Nvidia. Again, Jensen yesterday said on Fox News that the conversations are ongoing. But that in and of itself, if that adds $5 billion of revenue and potentially gets us to $8 of EPS, then Nvidia's cheap at 174. Nvidia's dirt cheap. But we got to see if we can get there. S&P 500 right here, 644. That's up down 0.72. SMCI is down 5. Netflix down 2. Open Door still holding green. It was up 15. Now it's up 3. Duolingo still down 7 on the day. Snapchat's up a little bit. Iran giving back some of its gains, but still up 17. And Hoodie down about 1.2%. That is what we got. We do have this Waymo headline that I think I saw. Waymo CEO says Waymo will cross 1 million rides per week by the end of 2026. That reminds me of Tesla. So again, Uber, as one of you guys said, does about 480 million rides a week, which is crazy to think of Uber scale. But Waymo is doing a lot more than Tesla. And Tesla has the new Model 3, not Model 3, the new Performance that launched today. So it's the new Model Y Performance. Here's some pictures of this thing. So there you go. That's the Model Y Performance. This is the red one. Some stats on it: 308 miles, 3.3 seconds, 0 to 60. Carbon fiber decor, top speed 155 miles per hour. It's currently only available in Europe and the Middle East, coming to other markets later. So it's officially launched in Europe. Here's the video they have on it. I'm just going to turn the audio off, but that's what we have. Again, Tesla has been kind of stuck in this range between 330 to 350. It's broken out a little bit from 330, but there hasn't been a growth story associated with it in terms of earnings for the past couple of quarters, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But there's your new Model Y Performance. Again, I love my Model Y, but when I drove that Model S in Miami, the Plaid, I could not. It literally felt like the wheel wasn't even a wheel. It was like half of a wheel. It was like a joystick. It wasn't like a real wheel. And that in and of itself was kind of weird driving it, but like it was just so fast. It was incredible. But it was also, I don't know how much it cost. I think it was like 150 grand or something. So I mean, the average person is not buying that car. Whereas the Model Y is a bit more affordable. It's called a yoke. That's what it's called? Really? That's what they call it? Oh, yeah, you're right. A steering yoke. Does anyone know why? Let's ask Google. Why do cars have steering yokes? Because I was just like, why isn't it just a regular wheel? To improve the driver's view of the instrument panel, enhance cabin spaciousness by taking up less interior space, and offer a more futuristic aesthetic. Okay, so it doesn't actually help it drive better, right? It's just like design. Yokes can also allow for more responsive and precise steering inputs. Okay, so maybe there's a little bit better of a drive with variable steering ratios that change steering sensitivity based on speed. Well, it had a yoke, and it was pretty freaking wild. Yeah, I meant Model S Plaid. Model S Plaid. For short people. To control the direction. It was a little bit more smooth on the turns, that's for sure. But that's what planes have. It's called an egg white. It was a bit different navigating the car because I was like, I'm used to like having a full wheel. Dude, I still can't believe I found out what the difference was between moot and mute today. I really thought it was mute point, like M-U-T-E. It's muting the point. This is the first time in 27 years I have realized it's moot over mute. I was like, there's no way I'm wrong on this. Nope. I'm wrong on this. So there you go. It's more of a motorsport thing. Yeah, I would imagine. Dude, Tanner yesterday, when I was driving yesterday and I was listening to Tanner's stream, he said something, bro. He responded to someone in the comments. I had to take on my phone to type LMFAO in the chat. Let me show you what yesterday, like, Tanner is just a funny guy and he has his own ways of being quirky and funny, but he said this shit yesterday and I was dying.
Is going to continue to rise. So why would he sell today whenever he can sell by 2028, but get his cash today? Finish your water. It's like here. I've got like a liter left. I love how people say, sip your water. I will. This guy just goes, finish that water. Talking like I'm a chat girl and he's just donated. Finish your water. I'm not going to drink for you, bro. Chill.
Dude, I had to take out my phone. I was literally dying. when I heard that shit. He's like, I'm not your chat girl. I'm not just gonna finish the wall. I was like, holy shit, bro. Tanner is fucking hilarious, bro. Absolutely hilarious. Finish your water. Tanner's like, I'm not a chat girl. Ethereum getting hit along with Nvidia. Bitcoin $380 away from below 107 or 108. Ethereum right here, 4,300. It's a little ugly day. BMNR down 2, hoodie down 1. Nvidia now basically lows of day right here, 173.50. I guess we're going to see on the market close how much we give back. S&P down 1%. Maybe it's just a little bit more of a reddish day. Yeah, that was funny, right? That was was hilarious to me, bro. I was like, I literally had to take out my phone while I was driving. I was like, I have to type LOL in the chat. I was legit just dying. Fernando, thanks for the $5 super chat. Hey, Mick, can we have your thoughts on Adobe? Earnings coming, volume super high, good numbers, fear of AI killing the biz. Thanks for the good info. Look, Adobe's undervalued, 100%. It's cheap on every conventional SaaS metric you should care about. The problem with Adobe to me is the same problem that Duolingo is facing. So there's a two-part problem to Adobe. Number one, which is why it's down 20%. What is the AI narrative that's exciting? So Duolingo is dealing with the AI is going to kill your business type of narrative. Adobe's not dealing with the AI is going to kill your business. Adobe's dealing with the how is AI going to enhance your business. And the most they've shown off is Firefly, which is their image generator, that I don't think is magnifying the results of their business because their top line growth is 8%. I mean, like in the age of AI, you just cannot be growing at 8% and expect to get a premium multiple on a legacy business. So that's the first thing. It's like how many people really care about image generation inside of Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Premiere. That's the first problem. The second problem is, Figma and Canva, right? So Figma just went public. Adobe tried to buy them out for $20 billion. They weren't able to do it. Figma, by the way, that market cap is now what, $33 billion. So obviously going public was a better idea. Figma is taking away market share from Adobe. They're kind of going after different markets. Figma's more in the design space. Adobe's more in the creative space in regards to movies and films, but still the synergies between them would have been vast. And now Figma's competing with them. So that's an issue. And then Canva, which I think will go public by end of year. They already had employees sell their stock at like a $35 billion valuation. So there's definitely demand on the secondary markets. And if that stock goes public, I will be buying shares because I use the product every day. They have 220 million monthly active users. I mean, like Canva is the most basic way for someone to engage with AI image generation outside of like using Gemini versus paying some $40 a month subscription to Adobe. So Peter says, I started doing a lot in ChatGPT that is used in Adobe products. Agreed. Now, again, all of these are anecdotal arguments around why the like narrative around Adobe is bad. None of that points to an existential threat to Adobe's business. Like the numbers are still incredible. The growth is not like phenomenal, but the growth is enough to say this company probably should be worth more than 150 billion. But it's like, do you want to buy something like that? Just like Duolingo, that just doesn't have everything going for it in terms of the narrative. And then obviously in terms of competitors that are not taking their lunch, but definitely not helping them gain market share. So I just don't believe in Adobe. Like Adobe's a great product, great company, but I don't believe in it. I also don't like management. If you've ever listened to their CEO talk, the dude's a dick. Like he doesn't really explain stuff to analysts. He doesn't help people understand their business. Like he's just like, I've not got the right vibe from him. It's not someone I would want to personally invest in, especially when there's so many other opportunities besides Adobe. Having said that, I think they will probably have their stock go up if they have a few more earnings where they just like maybe can increase margins, cut some costs here and there. Like there's a bunch of things they can do, but it's not the most exciting investment opportunity here. I know Jeremy sold Tesla and he bought Adobe. I still never understood that really. I get selling Tesla to reallocate the capital. I didn't really understand reallocating into Adobe. Now, do I think Adobe's cheap? Yes. So I understand why he's attracted to it. Do I think Adobe's like the most exciting opportunity in the market? Probably not. It's kind of like Grab, right? Grab's also just like a flat, like right now, Grab doesn't have kind of the narrative issues that Adobe has. I guess the one narrative on Grab is that it's in Southeast Asia, so it's not going to attract as many investors, but there's more opportunities than Grab. Now, I have a lot of conviction on Grab, which is why I'm long. But if someone said, hey, Mitch, should I buy Grab today because they want to return in a couple months? I would say no, because I can't. It's very hard to imagine that would happen. But there's a lot of other names that the volatility intrinsically baked in them could give them a lot more love. It is similar to Salesforce. Speaking of Salesforce, here's our boy Mark Benioff first time ever talking about Palantir. Here's what he had to say publicly.
Because the U.S. federal government is already my largest customer, right? That's our, we run the Veterans Administration, the GSA, and we just won. You probably read, we just run a huge U.S. Army contract. We beat Palantir. But in some of the areas that they sell to and some of the people that they sell to, and I won't go through all the details because it's not appropriate, we have not traditionally sold into those groups. So it got our attention whether they're closing these deals, and their products are so expensive. Like, have you seen their price list? It's out there online. It's like, whoa, these prices. I'm like, whoa, my prices are too low. I'm actually delivering, I'm automating the whole VA at this price. Like, what would they be charging? I mean, my prices are low compared to theirs, and easier, and products are much easier to use.
Yeah. So no, he's not ignoring that $300 billion.
How do you think about it?
No.
Yeah, why would that got my attention? I'm like, how do I get that 100 times revenue multiple? That's awesome. It's $4 billion in revenue. Let's keep it into perspective.
No, it's a 10.
It's an order of magnitude smaller than we are. But I just realized that it is as someone who was $4 billion in revenue once and is now $41 billion, it's two different companies.
Can I ask one related? I don't mean to go, Harry, you take the agenda, but related to Palantir, one of the things Palantir's gotten everyone's attention with is forward deploy engineers. Do you think that's a new concept? Are they the same people at Salesforce deploying software for the last 20 years? And is it different? How do you think about this FDE concept?
Oh, what a great question. I think that it's both. I think at one level, we've always had and always gone to the customer and trying to solve their problem and listen to them and do our best. And we have a large sales organization and we have a large systems engineer organization. You know what that means. And we're out there talking to them and working and building the prototype. And then we also have professional services, and then we have partners also, and all of us are in there. But we don't have that kind of branding of these are our forward deployed engineers, where now we're going to start building your product now before we've really signed a deal. And I think that idea is very cool. That all of a sudden you're like in there kind of saying, yeah, we're gonna make a bet that we're gonna start, doing business together. So we're gonna start building now. And I think that is something that we can all embrace and adopt and say, yeah, well, let's have more of that engineering resource start right at the beginning in the customer. Fantastic. Let's do that.
I want to go.
So he highlights why the forward deployed model makes sense, which it does. And it's ironic because everyone called Palantir a consulting business because of forward deployed engineers, but now it seems like it's like everything that software companies want to adapt with. But he's obviously really upset about Palantir's multiple. And he's like, wait a second, 100 times sales, they do $4 billion in revenue, order of magnitude smaller than Salesforce. My response to that would be the government contracts that Palantir is getting that Mark Benioff can't believe that they're getting has to be rooted in the effectiveness of the software. Like, the government doesn't want to spend a lot of money, ironically. They're like, if they can get a cheaper version of it, they will get a cheaper version of it. But it seems like the reason they're willing to spend as much as they're spending on Palantir, even if Salesforce has a massive relationship with the U.S. government, is because the software works. And it's really hard when you got lives on the line to undercut and buy some crappier software just to save a couple $1 million. So from that perspective, I think the fact that Mark Benioff is saying, I can't sell to certain parts of the government that Palantir can sell to, and I can't charge the prices that Palantir is charging, just speaks to the product velocity and the product moat that Palantir has in the government. And it's likely why a lot of the smaller players like a C3 AI that try to compete with Palantir inside of the government, it's just going to be very hard. It's going to be very, very, very hard. As a result, they should win. Dude has 76,000 employees selling his product. Yeah, that's the other ironic thing. Palantir doesn't have any sales folks in the government. The product really does have to sell itself, whereas Salesforce does have 76,000 employees. Dude, if Salesforce just cut 10 or 20% of their employees, I think that multiple would go up immediately. But they have so much fat in this company in regards to how big it is. Like, do you really need 200,000 employees to sell this stuff? And if you do, then obviously there's a lack of product velocity that a company like Palantir is able to get away with 4,000 employees. And so there's a difference in multiples. Now, yes, Palantir has an aggressive multiple. It is what it is. But one of the reasons for that is because the product velocity is that strong and the moat of the product is just bigger than what a lot of people think. IREN right here is up 16%. Nvidia still down 3. S&P is down 0.7. And then Salesforce 253. Again, Salesforce, this is a pick that Steve does like. He thinks just like Adobe, fundamentally it's undervalued, but it's down 23% year to date. So this next quarter is definitely going to be important. Yeah, what velocity is possible at CRM size? That's a good point, dude. When you have 200,000 employees, it's hard. It's hard to ship product and come up with new ideas and innovate. There's just so much bureaucracy. There's a clip of Carp underneath that tweet. Let me see. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is Carp said this a year ago, which is kind of responding to what Benioff said.
At some point. So how do you get enterprises? And we do see a difference in commercial. We didn't give last quarter's results, obviously, but the quarter before we grew 70%, and we have a nascent and terrible sales force. We still grow at 70%. Imagine what a real sales force could do with those results. So why?
Wait, Mark Benioff retweeted the tweet? Did he actually? That's wild. By the way, we do have a little bit of controversy between Mark Benioff and Alex Karp. Let me go to his Twitter real quick. Did he actually retweet that? Yeah, he retweeted it. Wow. There you go. Benioff retweeted it. Okay, so Time Magazine came out with their top 100 most influential people in AI. Let me pull up that list. And someone was missing from the list. Someone was missing. Someone that I think has a company that's growing the fastest in software when it comes to AI. Someone that's taking care of the most important government contracts when it comes to AI. But someone was missing on that list. And I was a bit surprised that they were missing because they made the list a year ago, but this time they missed the list. So it was a bit confusing. Now, who ended up making the list? Well, Peter Thiel did, but it's missing a bit. Maybe one day, but it's missing a bit. Peter Thiel made the list. David Sachs made the list. I'll pull up the entire list in a second. Alex Karp did not make the list. Alex Karp did not make the list, which kind of sucked because it's like, I don't get it. But you have Elon's there, Sam Altman's there, Zucks is there, Jensen is there. They snubbed Elon back in 2023, which was insane to me. They put like some Bollywood actor on there over Elon, which I didn't understand. Jassie's there, Anthropic CEO's there, DeepSeek guy's there, Alexander Wang from Meta's there. So you got a bunch of people, but Karp's not on the list. Now, the reason I said this is controversial is because guess who owns Time Magazine? Mark Benioff. And I don't know. It's interesting that the guy who just, seemed pretty salty about Palantir owns Time Magazine, Salesforce CEO. And for some reason, Alex Karp doesn't make the list. I mean, we're talking about Alex freaking Karp, dude. Rick Rubin, really? He's more important than Karp when it comes to AI? Like, I like Rick Rubin. His book is amazing. He's great at creativity, thinking of it. But really? That guy is more influential than Alex Karp when it comes to AI? I mean, half these people I don't even know. Half these people I'm sure you guys don't even know. More important than Karp? I mean, that's just hard to believe, bro. That's really, really hard to believe. Like, I don't know a lot of these people. And I think a lot of you guys don't know them either. I obviously know the Jensens and the Elons of the world, but I could not believe that Karp missed the list. So it is what it is, but at least Elon made it after not making it 2 years ago. So, Mark Benioff did not put himself on the list. That would be a bit egregious, I think. But yeah, he didn't make it. I just thought it was weird, bro. I'm just like, wait a second. This doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, we know how important Karp is in the age of AI. He has the fastest AI software company. Rick Rubin's more important than... did Lisa Su make it? Let me see. No, she didn't make it either. See, like, how is Lisa Su not on this list? Like, I know it's only 100 people, but I'm pretty sure you can take off a few of them for Lisa Su and Alex Karp. But then you realize a lot of these lists are political, and it's just bureaucratic in terms of how they get to their conclusion. But in 2023, when they didn't have Elon, I think everyone was just like, they had Marquez Brownlee, bro. They had a YouTuber who makes videos about iPhones over Elon Musk. Didn't make sense. Sid says it's messed up they use Elon's black eye picture. Last year, he wasn't even included. Don't trust Time. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many people read Time magazine anymore, but it's not the most credible like it was years ago. No MKBHD slander. Dude, we all know MKBHD hates Elon now, too. He's just like totally gone left of Elon. But it was weird, dude. I just didn't expect them to take him out. Palantir right here down about 1.5. Salesforce down 0.32. And then Nvidia down 3.3. Okay, so Peter Thiel, yeah, dude. So look, I respect Peter Thiel. He's an amazing guy. I don't I don't know how he operates in all areas, but he's doing an Antichrist thesis, which is on September 15th. He's hosting a forum on the Antichrist. Again, Peter Thiel got into a lot of controversy on that New York Times interview when he hesitated to say that humanity should continue in perpetuity. He is a thinker. He's an incredible thinker. He has a lot of different ways of how he thinks about the world. I am very curious to see what this forum is going to look like. But it's a forum around the theology, history, literature, and politics of the Antichrist. It'll be happening on September 15th. So we're going to see what Elon says. Not Elon, Peter Thiel says. He is a contrarian by nature. He is a contrarian by nature. Okay, what else do we have? What other headlines do we have? I think that's pretty much it. I don't think anything else too crazy. A little bit of a red day as we end out August. That's fine. I think we expected it. I believe Steve will be on the show today. We'll get his thoughts on Nvidia, Costco, Ethereum. Steve's becoming a very, very big ETH bull. You guys seem to like the blonde broker RBB that we had on the channel yesterday on TA. I think a lot of people liked her because she was very direct and to the point, was the main feedback that I got, which I agree. I mean, like a couple minutes per ticker, very direct, very clear to the point, and she was able to give some valuable information. So we might have her on again in the future. But you do have the S&P 500 down about 0.7%, Nvidia down 3%, Robinhood down 0.5%, Bitmine down 1.5%, Apple's up a little bit, Iren's up 14%, Palantir down 1.3%, and the S&P down about 0.7%. Give Jason a blonde wig and we're good to go. That's exactly what we need to do. Just give her a blonde wig. Did I roll covered calls on BM&R? So I had them at 52. I'll probably roll them down to like 50 for next week, but I have not rolled them yet. But the 52s likely will be out of the money by the end of the day, which should be good. She was bearish yesterday and everything. She was super bearish, bro. Like, she was awesome, but she was super, super bearish. She was like, yeah, Robin is going to like 85 in September. I was like, oh boy. I hope you're right about a lot of stuff, but I hope you're wrong about this one. She said Palantir's going to 130. I was like, okay, that's a bit aggressive. I don't know if we get that bad, but she is a bit more bearish in September. Is this going to last all September? I hope not. But look, if it does, bro, we all expected August to be shitty. It ended up being really good. If we're all expecting September to be shitty, hopefully that turns the opposite direction. But if it is shitty, then it is what it is. Like, unless there is, remember, 2024 September sucked. I remember the first week of September, we got a CPI report that was a little bit hotter than expected. I think the S&P, the S&P was down 4.2% in one day. It was one of the worst days we had since like 2020, and it was ugly. And then after we got through that week, just went up and up and up and up. We had a little hiccup in October, and then we ended out the year really nicely. So I think we might be very similar. We're probably not going to get 50 bips. We'll get 25 bips, but September was a great buying opportunity last year. A great buying opportunity. If that's the case this year, then I think we just got to weather through the storm and keep going from there. So we got to see, but hopefully it's not too bad. All right, so that's it. She was bowled up on Grab. She was very excited about Grab. She did enjoy this one. Duolingo just lost 300. Dude, this stock, this is unbelievable. It's barely above 300 right here. It's just a disgusting year. Hopefully they do something that like gets the market to think of them not as a play that's dead when it comes to AI. Like it really does feel like Google at 145 or something. Obviously it's not the magnitude of that, but Google was not dead because of ChatGPT. Now Google's at all-time highs. The problem is Duolingo still has a high multiple at 300. I can't deny that. 15 times sales, it still has a pretty aggressive multiple. So it's not like it's Google that was just dirt cheap at 145. But hopefully it doesn't stay stuck in this 300 range. All right, folks, I think that is it for today. S&P 500 down about 0.5%. Let's do word of the day. I'm not sure if we're having Palantir Weekly today. I'll let you guys know on the market close if we have Palantir Weekly. I think everyone should be able to make it. If we do, then we'll be talking about the short report since we haven't had an episode since Citron began shorting. But if we don't, then I will see everyone probably still on Sunday for the future show. Word of the day is okay, look, it looks like side reel. It looks like side reel, but it's probably not going to sound like side reel, even though it literally looks like side reel.
Sidereal.
See, this is like this is side reel. It's not whatever the heck that guy just said.
Sidereal.
There is no, like, please, I need someone on my side with this. This looks like side reel, bro. What are these words? Of or relating to the stars? Earth's sidereal?
Sidereal.
Earth's sidereal day is nearly 4 minutes shorter than a solar day. She explained that sidereal drift is the reason star signs have shifted over centuries. Yeah, I mean, you gotta give me some slack on that one. Gotta give me some slack on that. Sidereal. Looks like side reel, bro. Looks like side. I need Duolingo full time. Exactly. I'm still mad about the moot point, bro. I'm still mad about freaking. You know what? We're gonna go to Grok real quick. We're gonna ask Grok. Let's ask Grok something. Is it bad if I said mute point, but I meant to say moot point? Like, should I get made fun of by a YouTube chat for that? Let's see what Grok says. Saying mute point instead of moot point is a common mix-up, and it's not a big deal. Thank you, Grok. It's an easy mistake since the two phrases sound similar, and mute is more familiar word to most people. Thank you, Grok. A YouTube chat might poke fun at it, especially if they're a lively or nitpicky crowd. Oh, they're a pretty rough crowd. But it's not something that warrants serious ridicule. Most people will understand what you meant, and language slip-ups happen all the time in casual settings. If the chat starts roasting you, just own it with a quick LOL, meant to mute point, my bad, and move on. It's a minor blip, and YouTube chats are usually too chaotic to dwell on it for too long. If you're worried about it, you could clarify in the moment to shut down any grammar police. But honestly, it's not worth stressing out. People misspell or mispronounce stuff constantly online. Okay, what if my chat keeps making fun of me for mispronouncing words every day? Is there a issue here? See, this is your therapist, bro. Grok is a therapist. If your YouTube chat is constantly making fun of you for mispronouncing words every day, it's likely just playful banter, especially if it's a lively community. Online chats thrive on quick jabs and memes, and mispronunciations are easy targets because they're relatable and lighthearted. Your reaction matters. If you laugh it off or lean into it, it shows confidence that can diffuse the teasing. I've been trying to laugh into it, but at what point does it just become sadness at this point? Well, you can do set the tone, call out behavior lightheartedly in your stream, engage positively, own it, check your comfort. It's probably not a real issue. All right, there you go. There you go. this is what I was saying yesterday. I was saying if Steve called me yesterday, and let's just say he didn't have the nicest words for Joseph Carlson. I don't know how he's going to react today on the market close, but on FaceTime with me, he was a bit aggressive with his words. If Steve tried to do the market open or market close when I'm gone, and saw like a comment that would rage bait him, he would just spend 2 hours on that comment because he's an Italian mafia boss and he doesn't let things easily go away. So, dude, it was hilarious. He called me yesterday. He was like, "Who the fuck is this Joseph Carlson?" He just like goes into. I'm like, "Steve, he's just a regular guy." He's like, "No, this guy's blah blah blah." He's just starts going into it. So yeah, I don't know if he would be able to easily handle all the rage baiting. All right, that's it. That is it for me. This was all a moot point instead of a mute point on a sidereal day. And that's pretty much it for us today. He's going to ban 80% of you guys. No, he wouldn't ban, bro. Steve wouldn't ban. Steve would just like curse 80% of people out instead of banning. And he wouldn't be able to move on from a comment. We got to let him do the market open one day. That would be wild. Steve's crazy on Tanner's channel as well. Yeah, Steve he goes off. All right, folks, that's it. We'll be back for the market close. I think Steve will be able to join us and we'll get his thoughts. Ultimately, we're going to see how this market ends up turning out. Red day, ugly day, not as ugly as August 1st. We're up 3% since August 1st. So overall, a lot of these stocks take a little bit of a breather. It's not crazy to imagine. It would not surprise me if we reverse into the end of the day. S&P already kind of showing some signs of life with the reversal. It was down 1%. Now it's down 0.7. But we'll see how this plays out as we get into the end of the day. And we'll keep going from there on the market close. If I don't see anyone on the market close, have a great weekend. I will see you guys on the Sunday Future Show. And actually, no, we can't do Sunday Futures because there's no market open on Monday. So there's not going to be a Sunday Future Show. So if I don't see you today on the market close, have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday for the apartment stream. So we'll be officially moving in. I have a lot of work over the next 48 hours to move into the new apartment, to get everything fully ready and done. And then we moved out. We officially moved out. All of us are embracing an entire new journey. And we'll be live on Monday for the first stream inside of a new spot. And that's it. So there you go. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see everyone on the market close. Have a great one. I'll see you guys in a bit. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.